good.
Fucking Lance coming back with his fucking poutine. Oh shit. Jesus Christ, fucking amateur hour here over here, dude.
Can they hear me
So
now?
I'm so jealous of Mutant's podcast, dude. You guys should watch that instead. He's got like fucking transitions and audio and like looks professional, and like we just got these terrible ass backgrounds. So,
It's all part of the experience.
all right,
see
Lance,
what
you
you
need to
did
eat
there.
first, or are you just gonna eat during this podcast to make it
I'll eat
truly
during the
like
podcast. Yeah, I'm gonna
Jesus
turn my
fuck, I swear.
camera off while we. But yeah, got
Alright.
Torchy's. Whoops, dropped it.
Good call.
Wait, what you
Here's
eating?
the Torchy's tacos.
Ooh.
I'm going to New York in December, Frankie. So
Yep. Hell yeah, dude.
first time ever.
Like I said, you let us know when and what day you'll be available, and we'll run some shit.
Come out, cool.
Make sure you get the Chun-Li stuff out of your system before you go.
Oh no, dude, that's about. I think that ended today on Fight.
You gotta be respectful of their time.
I think Fightcade killed the Chun dream right there. So
Oh God, trying to do that on Fight K too is ugh.
yeah.
God bless you.
That is true.
All right. Well, so everything's good. Everything sounds good, chat. I think we'll go ahead and get this jumped up or like, on the way. Right? We're good.
Yeah. Can we get started?
Yep. All right, guys. So welcome to another episode of the Lance and Ray podcast. I think this is the first one we've done in fucking forever. I think what 4 or 5 months at this point. So, but we had to revive it from the dead with our special guest today, Frankie VFG, top 8 finalist at Evo. How you doing today, Frankie?
Doing good.
Good.
Very excited. Yeah.
Stoked to have you on the podcast here. Kind of walk through a couple, how your career with Third Strike, Evo, the TSB announcement that just got put up. That was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Just before we even get into that, I was talking to Neobon at the suite, right? And I was like, oh, who else are you guys getting? And he's like, oh, secret. I'm not gonna tell you.
Secret.
I'm like, what? Like, who are you guys getting? And he's like, oh, just wait. And then a week later, I see the tweet, and I was like, oh, fucking Neobon. Like, that's why he couldn't say anything. So, but yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it. Lance, you wanna? Well, your fucking videos. Jesus Christ, Lance, I'm getting a new
No, it's
co-host,
good.
dude.
I'm still here. I don't want to eat in front of people.
You want to take it from here?
Yeah.
Black.
Okay. So let's start with Evo. Talk to us about your Evo experience. What was your mindset going in and your preparation? Let's just start there.
Well, you guys know I couldn't attend Jazzy. I fucked up my foot. I fractured my foot. Like the last week of June, or like in between the second and the third week of June, and so the finale was like that weekend, and I couldn't make it, and I had been practicing like a ton, in order to make that tournament, and it couldn't happen, and so I was watching Jazzy with like hate. Honestly, I was hateful. I was sad that I couldn't go. I was so pissed. And after it kind of like went away, I thought to myself, like, there's really nothing to kind of play for. I'm stuck at home, but let me just practice because there's really nothing else going on. And then I got a good opportunity to go to Evo. Jazzy hit me up and they said that they because I couldn't make Jazzy, that they wanted to fly me out to Vegas, and all the arrangements were made for me, and I just went full tilt, because I miss Jazzy, and that's like the one thing that I feel like we all play for every single year, is just to like make it to that tournament so that we can just just be with each other. You know what I mean? As like weird as that sounds, we don't have that many opportunities to like see each other throughout the year. For a game like this, I think it's super important, and like having missed that, it affected me. So he told me to go. He told me, I had the AOK to go to Evo, and Nika, and that, in the Road to Evo Discord, we went kind of full blast on practicing matchups and watching tape, and being critical of everything that's going on in every single round and shit. We really like took the appropriate care, I think, in terms of practice. And it was just amazing. You know, it was like Evo I've never been to Evo before either, so it was like a very unique opportunity for me because, you know, when I started playing Third Strike was like '07, and Evo stopped running singles the next year, 2008. You know, because then Street Fighter 4 came out, and um, so I never got a chance to really go to Evo. I didn't want to go if it wasn't for Third Strike. I mean, I played like other games, but you know, obviously not at the level of Third Strike. You know that I've taken so much. You know, I guess I've tried really hard throughout the years to be good at this game. So you know, it was fun. It was fun to like kind of compete at that level and that stage, and nothing. The preparation was the same that it's been, and I just like I said on Mutants Pod. You know, once I figured out I was going to Evo, I have two sticks at home. I have like the giant like obsidian. No, it's the Kwamba. It's the Kwamba Dragon.
Yeah.
That shit weighs like fucking 13 pounds or something.
Yeah.
So I like using that at home because it feels like I'm playing on a cab. You know, I have like that. I have a lot of stability and I could like move my body and shit. You know, for my motions. And the moment I found out that I was playing at Evo on those setups, I was like, I can't. I'm not gonna bring this. I have one fucking foot. So
Yeah.
I put it away. I didn't even want to be tempted. And I pulled out the TE2, which is the one that I usually use for my other games. It's like a smaller, you know, more compact stick, and it has like straight out the box, it has one of the best like latencies.
Yep.
Like it's the closest to a PlayStation 4 remote, which is like the quickest like response time remote that you can get. So it's like the closest one out of the box to that. So I used that, practiced on my lap, which I hate playing. I fucking hate playing on my lap, but that's what we were gonna do at Evo. You know, I wasn't lying to myself. You know, I was just,
Yeah.
this is what the conditions are gonna be. I even played, and I told people to do this too. I even played with the sound off when I was at home because realistically, at a big tournament, the pool play, you're not gonna really hear. I was expecting not to hear the sound.
Yeah.
You know, the setups, they actually had like headphone jacks where you can like plug in a headphone, and they had headphones provided where, you know, one side you can hear from. So, which is like more than what you usually get at a tournament like that. So, you know, it was good. I think having trained without sound helped too. Just kind of get into that mindset, and nothing, man. It was just a lot of drills every single day. It was going into matches, you know, from that Discord every night. Zero ego, just going in, trying to be better, trying to learn, asking questions, fixing shit. Like nobody's above all of that, you know. So that's just what it was. That was the process, like the whole time, and I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, the part you mentioned about no ego, I like that, right? Because that is required of everyone playing online, a good player playing online. Like, if you want to get anything out of the online experience, you have to be like, okay, I'm not going to be upset. I know online's not exactly the same, but
Yeah.
I got to get something out of it, and so that's the goal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and you know, I was playing, you know, because we were anticipating Show coming, and like Show and Issei being like two of the favorites, and Yun being a matchup that I've struggled with recently. You know, I was playing a ton of matches with like Nika's Yun, with Shotokan's Yun, with B-Trans Yun. I was just trying to get as many different looks as possible. I didn't care. You know, I didn't even care about the result. I just cared about like what was happening in the game, and is it something that's like replicable? You know, I can replicate. You know, in a tournament setting, and you know, are these skills that I'm like getting better at, or you know, what are things that I'm not seeing? What are my dead spots? And you know, just shit like that. And yeah, just not caring about the result is something that's hard to do. But I think it's easier to do that when you have a tournament to look forward to because those are the results you actually care about, right? But if you're committed to not really going to tournaments, then the online results are the only results that you're ever gonna see. So I understand why people only care about that, but it's easy to not care when you have something to look forward to, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Um, oh, so you mentioned your stick being low latency. So that I know that's the hot topic at the moment.
Yeah.
About Evo. Did you feel like from with your stick? Did you feel like a significant amount of lag on these setups, or what was your experience?
No, I didn't, but I played a match on stream with Kyoka Shosuke. He's a New York player.
Mhm.
And I had some of the buttons in my stick like not in the right place because I did that because at home like my fight kit was being weird, and so I had just assigned buttons, whatever. So I moved shit around in there, and I forgot I did that. So the first match I played was on stream, and I had to borrow his stick, and I felt a little bit more lag on his stick. It's a Rav 4 he plays with. It's a Hori stick, and it's one of like the middling like latency sticks. Like there's definitely much worse and plenty better than that one. It's pretty average.
Yeah.
And I think I played well. Like I felt it, but I honestly do think it's it was a mindset thing with me, because I've gone to different majors. Like when Street Fighter 5 came out, like I was, in a lot of top 16s. I was like trying to be good at that game. When I went to a few majors, I like went to TFC, I went to NEC, and I was always kind of like in the 9th to 13th place. Trying to like make top 8 in that game. So I played a lot. And I have a lot of experience like throughout the years playing in these kinds of like ballroom tournaments, you know what I mean? And that's just what it is. Like every 3 months there's another top player from Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter 6 or Marvel that are complaining about the setups, right? That oh man, like these aren't the optimal settings, so and so. Somebody didn't disconnect their fucking remote and they paused my game. Just shit like that. Like those are the things that I'm kind of used to. So I went into it with lower expectations, I think, so that when they were met, I think pretty adequately, I felt like the setups were fine. You know what I mean? I felt they were pretty good because I was expecting much worse, due to the experience that I have. So I just think it's the mindset kind of going into it. I think but as in terms of the lag, I think my stick performed well. I think the monitors themselves, for the most part, were pretty okay, other than the size. I think the size thing is definitely like a good gripe. The sound. I mean, you got one like sound coming out of the headphone, and it was also playing on the speakers that were there too, so you can kind of hear. Anyway, it was just if you wanted to use the headphones, you could. But I think if I were to give it a letter grade, like S being like cabinet, and F probably being like PS2, then like those setups were probably like a B+, like A-,
Yeah,
something like that.
I
Something
fucked up.
in
I
that
had
range.
the Hori Alpha, I think, and apparently that was not great to begin with. And then PC mode apparently lags even more.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And I didn't know that
See,
because I just brought straight from fucking Fightcade to Evo, and then I was
yeah,
like, this feels
see, I
terrible.
see, no, you're right, and that's like a blind spot too that I feel like I should have helped people out with that. Like I should have made a video or something talking about these things because yeah, like and some sticks like the PS3 mode has like the worst lag of everything, but it has a PS4 mode, and usually the PS4 modes are like the low latency ones, or like the lower latency rather, and then PC mode tends to be like the second worst, and then if it has like a PS3 mode, it's like the worst. But yeah, I mean, all of these things are kind of like because all of us play on cab and it is an old game. I think all of us went into it kind of blind for the most part, like most people did, and it just to me the important thing was that the matches in day 2 and 3 looked great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like people were playing like shit the whole time. Like, and I know my matches were like with like my match with Tominaga was off stream, but he did not miss 100% combo. He hit fucking all of them on me. You know what I mean? So it was like he didn't miss not one time. He might have been missing, on stage or whatever, but when he was playing me, he didn't miss anything.
How the fuck was that off stream? Jesus Christ, does that footage exist anywhere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
Shout out to Big Red. Big Red, he recorded my match with him and with Rao. So
Nice. Okay. Yeah, Big Red is always like at majors and stuff. I love it. He brings his tripod, sets his phone up, like gets all the pool footage. Shouts to Big Red for sure.
Yeah.
So
That ass. He made the accomplishment that I thought was gone in the dust, in the wind, just a rumor. He made it tangible for me, so I really appreciate him for that.
Yeah, we were bitching in this the chat. I'm sure no one read it or cared, but it's like, oh, where's Frankie versus Tomonaga? Why are we watching another Chun-Li mirror?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I if we're gonna kind of go through my run, then I'll save it. But yeah, I have pretty.
Let's just do that now. Let's go through your run.
Yeah. So day one is pulls don't really count. It's just got to get through it. Everybody, I was like the top seed in my pool, so the one player that I played on stage is Safe. He's like a top player who used to play I used to actually follow him because I used Yuri and 2 in Street Fighter Five.
Mm.
So that's where he was a top Street Fighter Five player, and he picked up Third Strike, and he plays Urian too, but it's pretty much it. Day two, I played Cabal first.
Our boy.
I think he beat Big Bad to get there.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a good match. And then I played Chris G. Chris G, he's funny. He's a funny guy, man. I fucking love him. I just like when I was playing in pools the day before, he's like yelling. He was yelling my name while I'm on stage, and I didn't know who the fuck it was. I'm like, who the fuck is yelling my name? And I looked, and it's like him in this like bright pink like JoJo suit. And I'm just like, what the fuck is he doing? Anyways, he came up to me and he asked like, do you want to play on stream? If I wanted to play Chris on stream, it would have taken like another 30 minutes because he's being asked to be on stream for, I think it was Marvel or not Marvel. It might have been Street Fighter 6. And then he enters a bunch of games.
Yeah, yeah.
I just chose, it's like, let's just get it over with right now. Like, I was already waiting at that point for like maybe 20 minutes. And 20 minutes is a long time if like your pool's only supposed to last an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, let's just fucking do it. Whatever, that was, I beat him. Then I played MOV. It's funny because they kind of announced me and MOV's match almost like quietly, and it wasn't on purpose. It was just like the guy came up to me, like he didn't yell out names. Usually they're yelling out the names like to try to get the attention, but he like kind of came over to me. He brought me over to the thing. He found MOV on the side. He brought him over to the thing. They told us to sit right there and play on like the monitor that wasn't even facing the rest of the crowd. So we were just kind of like sat there, and like MOV, he plugs his shit in. He makes sure his headphones are good. He's doing his usual like stretchy thing. I'm surprised he didn't pull out the fucking oxygen tank mask and the eye drops and shit and whatever other PEDs he be using. And he just turns to me and he's like, "No one cares." I was like, "No one cares, I guess."
So they had you play on that second.
Was there any elaboration or?
No, just no one cares. He just looked around, like no one's around. He's like,
oh, I see. No one's watching.
No one's watching. No one cares.
So they had you guys playing on that
like,
second weird setup that was just off to the right, like.
Yeah. So the way, like you remember like how the pools were, right? Like they were like the three, and like there's usually like one that was facing like the other direction, like towards like the exits.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were playing on that one, and it took pretty much until like our last round before anybody noticed that we were actually
was going down.
Yeah, exactly. Literally we played. He beat me 2-0. Every single round went down to like last pixel. Mm-hmm. Every single fucking round, and he even tweeted about it afterwards too. But it was just it was such a fun set, and it's just like, fuck, I wanted to play him so much more. Like, I feel like if I would have gotten to him in grand finals, I could have like done something. But like, because like the first game, like I got like down in life like pretty quickly, and I was like kind of running it back and like getting my bearings a little bit. And then because Nika and I really worked on that matchup with him specifically, because I've only ever played him like once total times that I've ever been to Japan a couple of times. I've only played him once over there, and it was like at Co-op Cup when they were charging like $1 per game. God, so like everybody wasn't really
that foreigner tax or what, dude.
yeah, exactly. No, exactly. So we was working on that matchup, and like things were kind of coming together, and just he clutched it out. The both games, I get sent to losers. My fucking motor, my little bike, my little scooter broke down in the middle of that, so I had to like go to the wall, like charge it, and then they were calling me for the match against Sherwin that was supposed to be on stream. I go up there and they're ready to take us off stream. They're like, oh, like put a oh no, we're gonna run it in the pools instead. And I told them, I was like, look, I don't want to play off stream. Like I played off stream all day. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And this is potentially like my last match of the game. Of the day. Like I want to play on stream. So they had us in the side setup, which is like whatever the fucking Chipotle like extra match, stream setup.
That's what I was talking about. I was like, I didn't see anybody play on that shit all week. I was like, what the fuck is that over there?
Yeah, like I saw people playing on it periodically, but I wasn't I wasn't sure of the point of it. But I guess like while me and Sherwin were playing, they were setting up the next stream match. So as soon as we were done, like they were kind of ready to go.
Mm.
Um, but whatever, I played my match with Sherwin. I fucking hate Dudley with a passion. He's like one of my worst. Like just stylistically, he's just a matchup that gives. I think Kens don't like that matchup pretty generally. Like we just dislike the Dudley matchup, and so it was. And he plays with 5-star a lot too,
Yeah.
so he knows the matchup, and he has like just this comfort, and like my whole idea was like, how do I make him as uncomfortable as possible? And I was having a lot of trouble with that because Sherwin's like super talented, and he was like making like good reads, and I was running into everything, and just being able to kind of run it back against him and like use more mobility, to kind of. I'm pretty sure 5 stars, he's much more solid than I am, I think, and his like approach and his game plan, like he's more turtley, and so I was just trying to like show him a little bit more mobility, and it happens to work out for me. Um, the Tominaga match was one that we worked on. Like me and Lloyd worked on that one a lot too, just because between him and Niaban, I had lost to Niaban last year at Jazzy, and so there was obviously like a lot of like blind spots in that matchup that I needed to clean up. So we worked on those things, and the big thing versus Tominaga was just being able to like beat him in the air. Like
Mm.
he wasn't landing any like weird like jump ins that obviously like lead to mix ups and stuff like that. Like I was parrying the jumps pretty good. I was parrying the axe kicks really well, and I was just making the most of like my mobility too against him. I was like dashing out of dash throw range, and just making it hard for him to like land. And we played a good set. He got me in the 100%, twice. And that happened in game two, and then in game three, we were just able to just use mobility to again, to just stop him from getting anything started. The round match, I love fighting Chun Li. That's one of my favorite matchups, and so I felt confident. There was no moment against Rao that I felt like I was gonna lose, even though it was a very close match. It's just one of the. I think you have to have like that delusion,
Mm.
when you're playing Chun Li, just the confidence to like keep staying in your range and like punish the things that she likes to do. And you know, those are two guys that I looked up to for a while. When I first started playing the game, they were at Evo. Rao particularly, and then Tomi's a legend with Makoto. So it was um, kind of surreal having to play them back to back, and managing to win. Managing to win. Was a big accomplishment for me, just personally. And then I think it's kind of prophetic that in top eight, I had to play Neoban to make top six, like to make the big stage. And
Yeah.
he kicked my ass last year at Jazzy really well, and I had a whole year to think about all the things that I did wrong, and it took like fucking 4 months for me to even watch that match. And but once I started watching it, I didn't stop for like a month. Like there was just a moment, and like throughout the day where I'd like pull it up and like watch it again, and like just try to diagnose what the fuck happened, and like how to fix it. And so I had a long time to think about that, and you know Nika helped out as well, just kind of coming up with the game plan, and that worked out pretty well. And I lost to fucking Hayao, man. He kept grabbing me.
Yeah, so
Even
that's a now a famous moment. You know that's the next Evo moment 37.
yeah.
How does well yeah, just talk us through that match, and
Yeah.
then what was your and the aftermath, because right now you're famous.
Yeah, well, infamous. No, that I like that matchup. It's weird because I have a lot of familiarity playing Hugo.
Mm.
Because I played a lot of YSB when I went over there. I played him a lot, and then I played Caesar, who's a
Mm.
very good, like really smart player who has the talent too. Like he's always doing sick shit, and so I felt like comfortable in the matchup, like with how I was supposed to play it. And but the thing is Hayao is not the Hugo matchup You know,
Yeah.
he's very unique. Like he does things that no other player is capable of doing. So it was like kind of learning the match in real time in a sense. But you know, I think the way that I approached it was like I knew my EX Tatsus. You know, I don't know if you guys play Pokemon or not, but there's like there's like a limit to how many moves you can use.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
you know, and I felt that way about EX Tatsu. I was like, there's gonna come a point. There's gonna come a point where I can't use it anymore because he's gonna fucking parry it and then do
Yep.
it. And like for whatever reason, I kept doing it. Like after I knew that it had expired, I didn't do it again the whole fucking set until the moment.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just funny how it happened. Like like that shit expired the first game because that's how he ended game one. And you know, game two, I kind of stuck to like the principles that you know I I know are true against Hugo, which is like, you know, don't like you can't you have to out footsie him, but it's hard because he has like good like moves, you know what I mean? Like he has really good normals.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not like a fucking shit character. His normals are amazing
Mm-hmm.
and it takes a lot of like hits to kill him.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So you have to make a lot of good decisions like concurrently in order to win that matchup. And the problem with Hayao is that he's probably the best like player with footsies like period that I think has ever played. And so like trying to like tease that out of him was hard. But I was able to do it in game two, and I think that's why I won. I think I won that one pretty handily.
Mm-hmm.
And then game three happened, and again, it's just like, you know, I'm able to do this. He gets the throw, and then these little like adjustments are happening where it's like, okay, I'm gonna use a single move anti-air instead of like the whole Tatsu, and then he parries it, and then it's like, okay, now I'm gonna change the timing. I'm gonna do a ground one, or I'm gonna dash under. So it's like all of these things that were kind of like rolling through, and you know, he clutches it out again, and then you know, game four was like when the moment happened, and it was just that it was I had discipline from between games like the end of game one up until the end of game four. I had complete discipline about like not using Ixtatsu again. And then because I saw like the light at the end of the road, like, okay, game five's about to happen, let me do the Ixtatsu. I like kind of like lost myself a little bit. And then, you know, he parries it, he gets the full combo on the ground. And then when he dashes up after that stand roundhouse, it beats a lot of things. Like if I woke up with a crouching button, it beats that. If I woke up with throw, it beats that too. He didn't have any life left, but it also trades with high punch Shoryu.
Oh, okay,
So
okay. That's what I was gonna ask you. Yeah, yeah.
so the thing that I should have did, I woke up super and then that went over, which is something that he did intentionally, obviously. Like I've seen people say that it was like lucky and it definitely wasn't. He definitely did that intentionally.
Yeah.
And he got the punish. The thing I should have did is wait for as close to 6 frames as like I can approximate, and then EXDP. Like that's what I should have did, but you know, that's a learning experience, right? And as soon as it was done, I didn't like think it was anything other than a sick like third strike moment, and I put the key into the ignition of my scooter, and I slowly made my way off the fucking stage. But it's funny too because like I didn't notice any of the antics he was doing like in the middle of the match because a lot of them were pretty like silent, and I'm like, you know, locked in. The one that scared the shit out of me was when he like jumped in the air and landed like on his back, like he did that fucking boat shit.
Yeah.
And the only reason I noticed that was because the fucking stage shook. Like I saw the setup like lift from the table. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And I see him on the ground like
Yeah.
with his like big toe in the air, and I was like, oh, okay, everything's fine. Like I thought he might have collapsed or some shit.
Like, oh, if he's injured, does he get DQ'd? Can I go? Can I move forward?
Yeah, right. And then it's funny too because like I just remember the set as something that was really fun. You know what I mean? Like I keep telling people that like I was more nervous playing in pools than I was playing on stage because it's like, and I don't know how to explain that. I don't know if but that's just the case. And like when I'm up there, you know, with Hayao, we were having a lot of fun. Like I was smiling a lot, even though you can't like the camera was never on me when I was laughing. But like I noticed a couple times he was doing stuff and it was funny. Like I enjoy it, you know, when he did it against fucking like Resolve and when he did it against JR, when he was doing it like the whole weekend. It's funny. So I was just enjoying it when I saw it. But then while we're playing, you know, we're doing the dance, right? That you do when you're playing at a high level, and I'm adjusting to his shit and he's adjusting to mine, and I hear him say, "Ooh, like strong," you know, and I'm like giving him compliments in the middle of it, you know. So it was just that, you know, for four really close games, you know what I mean? And it was just his greatness and experience like won out because uh if two interactions had gone my way, I would have won 3-1 instead of losing 3-1, right? It was like the end of game 1 and the end of game 4. You know, it was like that would have been it. But he's great, and I'm happy that I'm able to be a part of like Third Strike history in that way because you know, I started in '07, and one of the main reasons I started was because of the Evo 37 moment. Like I saw that and I was like, shit, that's the reason why I play White Ken, you know? And so to be kind of a part of that, you know, I'm keeping things in perspective. Like, yeah, it sucks that like somebody split his ass cheeks on stage, and it was because he did some sick shit on me. But at the same time, like I'm thinking big picture, and it's like, you know, I'm getting text messages from people that I used to, you know, play Street Fighter 4 with, and they're like, "Yo, I want to play Third Strike now.
Yeah.
Like, let me know when's the next session." And that to me that's the fight for the future, right? Like that's what we try to do. Like we play this game because there's something about it that we think it's, you know, we enjoy so much, and the passion that all of us put into either creating content or running a tournament or, you know, running locals or whatever, you know, doing podcast. Like we all do this because we want to like preserve this thing, and we want people to join in so that it continues. And so if I could be a part of something like that, even if it's on the receiving end of like a sick moment, like it's an honor, quite frankly. That's how I'm coping with this.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. No, I kind of mentioned a little bit in that same server, Nika's server, but yeah, I think being there's certain moments in time where you can say like, okay, that was a big moment. That started something new, right? And obviously, Justin and was one of those moments. And I think how Justin's handled it over the years, of course, has also been really cool, right? He's kind of embraced the moment
Yeah.
and what it's meant for fighting games and what it's meant for Third Strike. Yeah, I like tracking the narratives after these things. You know, there's big moments in Third Strike history, and you just kind of read the YouTube comments, read the Twitter comments, you know. And of course, there's this narrative out there of like this useless move that Hayao used. It doesn't beat anything. It only would have beat
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah,
thing.
right. No, that's not the case at all. Somebody said it's minus 18, and yeah, it's true. It's minus 18. It also does like fucking 70 pixels of push block. So it's like you can't punish it. Like, what are we talking about? You can punish it with SA2 Chun. But yeah, I mean, you might be able to punish it with SA3 with Shipu, but I don't know. It's just funny, like this idea that it was completely useless, like a completely useless move. Like it's not. Like it does a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a great closer.
But yeah, I think this was one of those moments, right? Like, there's so many narratives you can see after these huge Third Strike tournaments. You always have had to like play around, like, oh, another year of Chun Yan, boring game, blah blah blah. That was not the case. We just totally avoided that one.
Yeah.
Or I could see in an alternate universe of like, oh, Frankie lost to a top Japanese. Oh, America landed the free.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and I haven't seen that. That narrative is completely absent. What I am seeing is like, dude, Evo needs to bring Third Strike back next year, and I want to play Third Strike, right? So to me, that moment was like, yeah, like you said, it kind of sucks that he's kind of styling on you, but at the same time, it's really cool to be part of that, and I think it's overall a huge positive.
Yeah, 1000%. Like I mean, yeah, who doesn't want to be on the side of like a winning moment like that? You know what I mean? But dude, like when I was walking to the ballroom the next day, I saw like people who clearly didn't play Third Strike playing Third Strike, and they were like Hugo's on the thing. It's for a reason, right? Obviously, like he made the character look great, but that's like the point of it. You know, I feel like if you try to play Third Strike in good faith, you can't help but fall in love with it. It's just that fun of a game. And so, you know, whatever that we can do to get, you know, people on that first step, I'm proud to be a part of that, honestly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You touched on earlier about being more nervous in pools and playing on stage. Can you kind of like go into your mindset in regards to like playing on a stage like that, especially that stage, right? It's like one thing for Jazzy where it's kind of like self-contained, right? Like everyone there is Searchlight players. Like there's 100 of
Yeah,
us gathered around. That arena was fucking crazy, dude. Like I mean, I remember I was sitting up front with like Durlath and Max, and when I was just looking around, like this is fucking insane right now. Like I can't imagine this for Third Strike. And you kind of walk me through just like how you blocked out the crowd, because I talked to Issei about this too, and he's like, yeah, after a while, just like I didn't even notice. I was just playing Third Strike at this point. Like I didn't even hear the crowd. Like they just sounded like one person almost. So can you kind of walk through like your
yeah,
mindset, like yeah, just playing on a
yeah,
stage that big? So,
yeah. I mean, he hit it on the head. Like I think the pressure that like I put on myself was to win the whole thing. Like I thought I could win. Like there wasn't a moment where I thought like, oh, I'm out of this. There's no way I can win. So whatever I do, I'm like happy about. Like I thought, I felt that in my preparation, like I could win. And I think nerves are natural. I think nerves are good. Like the tournaments that I've always like done the best in are the ones that I'm like ready to puke like before like the first round starts. Like, and I get that way a lot. I'm like a highly anxious person, and so I can get that way, and I've just learned to kind of embrace it and to like not you know not judge myself for being nervous. And the only to me the only remedy to like actual anxiety when it comes to stuff like this is just like to prepare as much as you can. And if you can tell yourself you prepared as much as you can, all you can do is just try your best, and whatever happens happens. So when I'm playing in pools, it's like there is an expectation that I have to win every single fucking round. Like the moment I lose a round, it's like, okay, well, like what's going on here? And then people are going to be looking, and so I think that's where like the nerves came from when I was playing in pools and playing even in day two. um by the time like day two rolls around, I'm like nervous playing against like Cabal. Once I played him, I was like, okay, we're just playing Third Strike, right?
mm-hmm.
Played Chris G. Me and him have played for fucking years, so that didn't feel like anything else. By the time I get to MOV, it's just you know, uh, just focus. Like I have a defined game plan, and I'm just trying to like execute it. There's just nothing but focus there. When I got to Sherwin, I was like mad because I had lost the MOV, and I'm like hobbling and my foot hurt and my fucking scooter's dead, and like I'm calling the lady in between like my matches to see like when they can get another one delivered, and I'm just like stressed out. And then so I was angry when I played Sherwin. I managed to get past him. I don't play well when I'm angry. I play well when I'm like kind of even keeled and like having fun. And so I managed to beat Sherwin like that. The rest of the run was just like a pure focus. And by the time I got to top six, I felt I wasn't satisfied with what I did, but I looked at like the road that I took, and objectively, that's like a tournament that I've already won.
Yeah.
Like all of the talent that I had to like outperform to get to this point, I felt good with myself. I felt like I belonged on that stage. So when I got up there, um the you don't see people in the crowd. Like they're like with this they're one entity, you know what I mean? And it's just noise. And when there was a point where you guys were like cheering my name, and that was great. That's probably when I broke into a smile when I was like doing the introductions and stuff. When you get up there to play, yeah, you hear everything in the moment, you hear everything, but at the same time you don't. It's like white noise, you know what I mean? And I feel like, especially when you're focused and you're like trying to make these adjustments happening and you're getting pushed by like another great player, it's like you don't hear anything. Like you're just so like transfixed on what's in front of you. Um, but I acknowledge that it was kind of a once in a lifetime kind of a thing. And I guess the big takeaway is if you are the type that gets nervous before a tournament, that's completely normal. And the only thing that you can do to like mitigate those nerves actually being a detriment to your performance is to just prepare as much as you can.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I know, like, so I was talking, this is a couple years ago at this point, but to Ben, Carapalm, young player from NorCal,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he was telling me there's like, there's research, this basically says when humans are nervous, like your blood vessels constrict and you start like getting tunnel vision, right? You just can't process all the possible options. You're just kind of focused on a couple things. And this, some evolutionary psychology reason, like,
Hmm.
it helped us survive millions of years ago, whatever. Um, and I've noticed that, like, kind of drawing this connection to the preparation versus your performance, because we are going to get nervous, right? Like if you don't get nervous in tournament, really cool, but I feel like most people do, and
Hmm.
I feel like often you kind of fall back on autopilot or whatever your default habits are.
Hmm.
And so if you've prepared in a way where you're like, okay, I'm going, because like I can think like, oh, I'm playing Frankie next, so that means I have this stuff in my head of like I'll do this and this, right? But if I haven't practiced it, if I've only thought about it, it's not going to happen. When we're
Hmm.
in tournament, and my heart's beating, I'm just going to be doing the same shit I always do.
Yep.
You know?
1,000%.
Yeah, I think that's the preparation in terms of building muscle memory to me is huge. Like,
Hmm.
the more you're doing that, the more that's the comfort level you're going to feel in that matchup and in that moment for sure.
Yeah, I think that's why like I emphasized and we all did like in the chat we were like emphasizing like drills. Like, I would usually, I'm a pretty busy person, so, you know, I'm I have like maybe 30 minutes to maybe play, every day if I can wing it, like 20 to 30 minutes. And what I'm doing in that time is like just hit confirm stuff, like basic hit confirm shit, just execution stuff and drills that, just trying to like defend against this thing or like like seeing like dash up something and like responding appropriately and just like doing reps and reps and reps and reps of that because it like what you said is completely correct about like defaulting to some kind of like autopilot.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be, it's not like a negative thing, it's just like what you kind of naturally revert to, like what are your baseline kind of habits. And so if you can make that, a safe or a comfortable play style for you, then things will be okay. And then you can kind of, if you're executing that on a good level, then when it's time to make an adjustment or that you're actively thinking about making a change, you can do it easy. Like it's much easier to kind of build onto that like kind of skeletal game plan if you're at least comfortable with what you're doing. So you're right in that sense. Like you have to like build up a really strong quote unquote like autopilot, if you want to like perform at that next level.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
if the physical side of me is like, that's the worst for me. It's like when I get on stage, I get like so nervous to the point where like I can't even like feel my hands. Like I was telling people at Evo, like fucking, please put me in the melty blood like bathroom fucking setup. Like I would much rather prefer to play there than like on stage when people are looking at me because I get like so nervous to the point where it's like my hands aren't even functioning. You know what I mean? Like it's just like I'm just
Yeah.
hitting shit. So, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, I mean, I think like starting at CF kind of helped me out with
Mm,
that because those guys are fucking assholes. Like
yeah.
they were just like you don't know how to play the game barely, and they're like yelling at you,
Yep.
like every time you get hit or do something wrong. So I think like having that kind of arcade foundation was like beneficial, in that sense.
Yep.
Yeah, speaking on that, we kind of skipped the first question, which was like, give us your Third Strike life story. So you just mentioned CF. Is that basically where you started?
Yeah, that's pretty much that was it. I used to go to Chinatown, like hanging out with my friends. We were into card games at the time, so there was like two card shops on Mott Street, um, and one was right next to like Chinatown Fair, and so we kind of just do the card shit. We go do what we needed to do, and then we just stopped by the arcade. We did it like the first time that we knew of it because we played in the Bronx. Like we played our card games in the Bronx. We heard about this place, Mott Street, buy your cards, whatever. Visited it. Chinatown Fair was next to it. We go in. We're walking down. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Chinatown Fair. It's just like this really like skinny hallway with like games on both sides. Games on both sides. You get to like a bigger spot and it turns right on that corner. There was like a little setup, a little third strike setup. This was before they had it on the showcase cabinet, and there was maybe realistically like maybe 12 to 14 people hovered around that one little cabinet, and it was this Chun-Li player from, I think he was from California. His name was Henry, and it was Tony. He was he's like the person who taught me a lot when I first started, and he was playing Ken, and they were just playing, and everybody was just like quiet, as loud as an arcade can be. That area of it was just like dead silent, very focused. Everybody was just like watching them play. Somebody did some sick shit. Everybody erupted, and I was like, I think I have this game at home. This looks like fun. Let me like boot it up. So I was playing on a pad, and would just come every Friday after that to just like try to learn the game. Obviously, that first week, I look up Third Strike just to kind of see what the fuck I should do. Just because like I think that's like the culture in card games. I think it's like somebody's already like refined this deck, let's say. So just look it up and see like what's the best version of that you can use, and then you make changes from there. So it's that same idea. Like, let me just look up Ken Third Strike and see like if there are any like tutorials and shit like that. And Evo 37's up, and watch it. It's like, holy shit, this shit is sick. I want to do that. So let me just start playing it and taking it seriously. And every Friday from then on in, I was just going, competing, trying to. My first big hurdle was landing a super against a human opponent.
That's still troubling for Ray as well.
Oh my fucking god, this guy.
So, so that was my first thing. I think the first super I landed was a crouch medium kick, fireball on the super, and which is still good to this day, by the way. I don't use it enough, but it is good. And nothing. 6 months down the line, I entered my first tournament. Noel Brown and Justin, they used to hustle everybody and run tournaments for all the old games and be like, "Yo, you want to enter? It's $10." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Entered. I got ninth in that tournament. I lost to what I lose in winners? I think I lost to Li Joe in winners, and then the losers I lost to Darren, number one Goki, Lava Heart, and yeah, it was just I became addicted to that. First tournament ever. 6 months into playing the game, I got ninth. I thought I could be pretty good at this, so I wanted to keep going.
What was the culture like at that time? So we hear stories of like the old days, like, oh, if you throw me and my boys will be waiting outside to stab you. No, it wasn't like that. I imagine by that point,
No,
it was like
no, this is post Mad Max, like post like Oz arcade culture for sure. We're talking like all the people who were like from that era was maybe like one or two of them, and so we outnumbered them, and so like we never got to that point. It was just more Evo's an established thing already, so there is like a tournament kind of culture. We attend this thing, so we're kind of part of it. And if you're like a local who has never done anything, or there was clicky. It was very clicky. And so when I started, I was pretty late in the games, like comparatively. You know what I mean? It was pretty late to like compared to everyone else who's been a part of it for a while. I started around the same time as Ahmed, Green Tea, Ahmed's brother Adam. And so we kind of, started to look out for each other in that way. You know what I mean? So we kind of became our own little clique. And, if I behaved unscrupulously in my youth, it was because I was used to like being attacked all the time at CF. Not literally, but every time you go up there, they're like, like get this guy off the fucking cab, like kind of a thing. It was just that kind of environment, and there's nothing wrong with it. It just is what it is. Like people want to see like good matches, and you're holding up the fucking line. There's 25 quarters on this shit, and we want to play, so get them off quick. It was like that kind of a thing. And I think my first, I adopted like the Frankie 3S thing because it was like a joke that was used against me. When I first started, like it was like, oh, this is Frankie 3S, right? Like making fun of the fact that I sucked, so they were gonna name me after like this like great player and like laugh at me about it. So I was like, okay, it's not gonna be funny in a while. You laugh now, but I'm gonna take the fight. I'm gonna use the name that you guys are giving me, and I'm gonna start like kicking your teeth in. And so, that started, and then, Street Fighter 4 came out. We had that 15th anniversary thing. After that, there was like a kind of a dead space in the game where we were still playing it, but nobody gave a shit. And that tournament started, and I think just slowly, these like communities started like coming up, and people who ran the game, ran the tournaments and shit, like had a big part of like us meeting. The TFC thing kind of like drummed up some more like hype, and um, yeah, I mean it started at CF, and briefly it was on 3SOE, and now we're just trying to keep this game alive, like one Evo moment at a time, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so and this is where I don't have the full context, right? So in my brain, like modern Third Strike in America starts like Summer Jam 2015. Like in my brain, that's a moment. It's like,
Okay.
okay, that's the modern era. That's when it starts. So that's like Tits and Kang are teaming up to do this event.
Yeah,
Everyone's gonna coming out.
that's fair.
Uh, yeah, and that starts off from there. Now, does that seem accurate?
Yeah, I think that's perfectly right, because before that it was a dead space where nothing was really happening throughout the year. Like 3SOE came out and nothing really happened with that, and then they ran that tournament, that the one that they held in San Francisco. Forgot which one that
Was
was.
Sunroute?
No, there was
No.
another one that was like ran by Capcom and everything,
Oh,
and
okay, okay, okay.
that's the one that MOV won too. And
Or was
so
this the
like
25th anniversary? That was like the global one. Is that?
yeah, it was that one. It was that
Oh,
one.
okay, okay.
So that was like the only thing that happened between like those tournaments, the qualifier in New York City, and then that one. That was really the only like two big events, and then it was kind of us like playing the game, like kind of meandering or whatever, and just trying to like keep it alive just because we liked it. We weren't really trying to do anything with it. And
Hmm.
then yeah, TFC kind of happened, and I think that you're right. I think that would be like a good like starting point for like what modern American Third Strike is. You know.
Yeah, like in my brain, so I'm just observing a lot of this. At the time, I'm like an up and coming player, but certainly nowhere near the top. So I'm just kind of watching everything happen. But it seems like okay, Summer Jam 2015 leads into TFC. These co-ops are happening at the same time. Top eight and that time period is like the same people every year. It's like
Hmm.
it's like the top 4 or 5 New Yorkers, and then like Yi, Yuki, blah blah. Right? That's top eight every time.
Lion, Lion-san, Ryan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ryan when he was coming out yeah, when he would flew in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was top eight, and then you guys were prepping for co-op, and so that was the first because I started in like 2011, right? And for me, this is an online game. I played online edition. I play my Elena on DSL wireless Alaskan internet, and I
Right.
hit people with overheads, and it's really fun. Um, and then later on, I switched to Chun-Li and stuff. But for me, in that 4 year period, that's kind of like where I start. So to me, it's not really a competitive game. And like I listen to podcasts of the old days, back when, whatever, all that stuff. But then Summer Jam 2015 is the first time where to me there's anything competitive really happening.
Right.
And then from then I just see it all kind of take off, and we kind of just keep building step after step until finally we arrive to where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, I think to be fair to like TFC didn't just like pop out of nowhere. It was like, like the Tits guys,
Yeah.
particularly like Mutant and Nika were like, yeah, traveling to all like these Northeast events, and like, running like the fight clubs and stuff like that. So I think like the whole House of Strikes thing was like that. It was like trying to drum up some kind of like fun, and hype for these events that was happening. And I think that those like events happening and us like consistently practicing for that led up to our ability to perform at TFC when like Mutant and Kang, you know, tried to get together and run that thing. And
Yeah.
so yeah, but I think 1000% like that was like the big bang kind of event for modern Third Strike, I think.
Hmm. Now during so you were pretty much like during that time period, I would say obviously you were one of the top players, right? Every top eight you were in there. Now, and that's basically that to me in my mind that kind of spans a decade, right? We're like talking Summer Jam 2015 to now. It's basically been almost a decade.
Hmm.
So, like walking through that, you've had a lot of matches and a lot of big tournaments.
Hmm.
What are some of your fondest memories, or what are some of like the biggest matches that really stick out in your memory uh, for American Third Strike? We'll get to co-op here in a second, but
Yeah. I think I have three kind of that like stick out to me for different reasons. I think the first one was being able to play Justin in losers finals at the Boston Red Bull tournament.
Mm-hmm.
because they ran that tournament on cabs. It was like a legit, event, and um, at that point, um, I had beaten Justin. I feel like I might have been like the first, um, like American Ken to beat like Justin, at least on the East Coast, and that happened at NEC, and that was like on, I think it was on OE, or it was either on OE or PlayStation 2. And so there was like kind of like the asterisk, like it kind of didn't count because it was on that.
Sure, sure.
And when I started, nobody even came close to touching Justin unless he went to the West Coast, and he had to like play Pyroly pretty much. Pyroly and Chirithi were like the only people that could, and Amir were like the people that could fuck with Justin. And so he was like the first like mountain to climb, and that kind of time had passed where I was able to play him. And so being able to play him at Boston, and being able to play as well as I did against him, and he was still like pretty active. It wasn't like so far away from, like, Street Fighter 4 was still happening, I think, and so it wasn't so far away from Third Strike that he was like out of shape. Like, he was still winning every tournament that he entered when he did enter it. And so that was like a good, like, that one felt great. The year after Ryan won TFC, I was able to beat him to make it into top 8, which was another like kind of like big accomplishment for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think beating Yi at the first Jazzy finale was a big one, because he had just kicked my ass like that same day, and then he had beaten me in the team tournament that we played at TFC. So I hadn't had my chance against him to kind of like prove that in my head I kind of belonged amongst like the top players, kind of like that. I was always like the bridesmaid, you know what I mean? Never the bride kind of a feeling. And so um those three stick out in my head, like kind of immediately when you asked that question. Those are the things that popped in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those all stick out in my memory. Yeah, I remember all those. Now, you said I want to touch on the Justin one a bit because so Justin, of course, was a New York player originally. So when you were coming up, was he was he just like a local third strike player, or was he? What was the situation?
So by that time, like, Evo was already a thing. It was already established. So he was already 7-time, Evo champion for Marvel at that point. He was the one, always like winning Evo East and like the 8 on the break things. And he was the one who would always win the SBO qualification, like the qualifiers and shit. So he won everything. So he wasn't just like a New York guy. He felt like the fucking like a fighting game, like deity and shit. Like nobody could beat him. Nobody ever knew how to beat him. He would like come into CF and get like 75 wins with like Dudley for no reason,
Mm.
and like walk away and then play like in his Marvel 2 money match that he had that day. It was just like, and he was the only one going to SBO, from the East, like him and KO Fiend, and you know those were like the top guys at the time. So he was kind of esports before it was esports, and he was like the like representative of that, of that like prestige kind of that you get when you go to Evo and stuff. So, and also going to SBO, it was like one of those things that we, at that point, we hadn't even played on the Japanese cab before. Like, these are things that are like we take for granted now. But I hadn't played on a Japanese cab. The first time I played on it was NEC, the NEC that we ran, that big like East Coast versus New York, like fucking 20 on 20
Mm-hmm.
like thing. And that was the first time any of us had played like on a Japanese cab. So just
Wow.
to give you some perspective on
Yeah.
like what our experience with the game was, it was like playing on a showcase cab, like American sticks, and then playing at home on a PS2. So at that point we're still like searching how to run the perfect third strike tournament. And I know like we take that shit for granted now because we just have cabs in every like major scene. Shit. Um but yeah, that was kind of his like role in that. He was just like the big brother who would just kick everybody's ass all the time and take everyone's money.
Yeah, that's always so. Justin's always been interesting to me, right? Because I feel like he inhabits two roles at once, which is number one, he is like, how do I say it? He's like the guy who doesn't play Third Strike. He's not a Third Strike player exactly, but he can kick all your asses. Like, oh, you guys can't even beat Justin. That guy just comes back and takes all your money. But at the same time, he's like like one of the most important Third Strike figures in America, and he does love the game, and he comes out and he plays in Third Strike events. You know, he's without the Daigo parry, we probably don't have the modern Third Strike scene at all. You know, at least in America.
We probably don't even have a modern Street Fighter scene, period.
Yep.
Right. And so I thought he's a very interesting person to me in terms of like, because he does love Third Strike and he plays it all the time. At the same time, there's this feeling you get like, oh, I got to beat Justin, right? Like, for my own pride, you know, he doesn't play like
silly.
that. Yeah,
so silly.
You hear that from so many people, right?
Well, yeah, but those are the people that don't have any experience doing fuck all, like, and anything outside of like online shit. You know what I mean? Like they're not even involved in the community in like a real way. You know what I mean? Like their extent of it is like a Facebook Messenger like thread or whatever the fuck. Like it's not like they're not actually engaged in this thing, because if they knew, like Justin he's probably one of the biggest advocates for this game.
Yep.
Like he didn't just like he came to CF, and I just told you he would get like 75 wins with Dudley on a random fucking Tuesday or a Friday before everybody really came out. You know, he would play Urian and something and just try to like have fun playing the game. He always had fun playing it. And, you know, but, you know, we have this idea in our heads because of people like that, and because people who aren't engaged in the community in like a meaningful way, that somehow it's shameful to lose to one of the best American Third Strike players ever.
And that's what he is. I mean, he is one of the best American Third Strike players.
Well, I mean, even
1000%.
look at his Japanese results recently. What was it, 2 or 3 years ago? He went over there and played a bunch of first to fives and like, you know, beat RX, like went toe to toe with Tominaga. Like he beat a lot of strong players over there, and like, yeah, he doesn't like he's not grinding this game like the rest of us are. It's just like
he's playing on Fightcade too a lot lately. So
yeah,
he's just that strong. Like he's just fundamentals and everything is so good. Yeah, Justin.
Yeah, and he has fun with it.
Yeah,
you know, he really does love Third Strike. Like he just does. And so it's like it's kind of shameful that narrative was even able to like take like, you know, develop legs and like run. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I blame like us for like not shutting it down every time somebody said it, you know. In some respects also like kind of caving into that argument, like maybe like they're right because he doesn't play, or because he's known for this other thing right now, that I should be able to easily beat him. Or it's just silly. It's just a silly thing that we kind of like let people say and get away with.
Yeah. When we talked to Texas Showdown, he's like, "No, I love this game." It's like, yeah, and you can see it for sure. Like,
but yeah, you don't
just want to sit there and talk with us about it. Like, yeah, he loves the game.
Yeah, you don't fucking play this game. Dude, you don't play Urian for 76 games in a row because you hate it somehow. I think another thing too is that you know, it's not a popular game within like the people who run Evo.
Yeah.
So I also think that kind of like, you know, I think that narrative, it's like a little bit like viral in a sense, where it's like if anybody's associated with that, then that means that they kind of believe it too. Like, oh, they probably hate the game too. But no, not him. You know, I've never got that sense from him.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then so going to the other big wins. So you said Justin, you said Ryan, and what was the third one?
E.
Oh yeah.
E. Okay, so yeah, so we'll hit Ryan next. So that one was big, right? So Ryan. So here, and I'll just kind of recap again from my point of view. So there's this build up, right? There's nothing happening, and there's this build up, and I feel like at the time there's a lot of question marks, right? There's like, oh, who's really the best? Are Yi and Pyro just still the best players? You know, like
yeah.
Or it's you know, Nika is rising, you know, other New York players, you know, Frankie, Mutant, or that, you know, no one really knows. And Yuki, of course, is in the mix somehow, and Yu Kang's also there. You know, that's fine. But yeah, so as it all kind of leads up to TFC 2016, and like it's a combination of at TFC of like camaraderie, but also competition, and everyone's really hungry, and then that competition really continues into the next year. So Ryan wins TFC 2016. And then, but that's not the end of the story, right? You guys keep preparing, and I feel like, in my mind at least from observation, it seemed like preparation for TFC and for Japan was all kind of one big thing with you guys. You guys were just grinding. So yeah, I guess I'll just leave that there. And what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the like the East Coast particularly has always had a bit like a chip on their shoulder about this game, because like I said, the California guys they always had the Japanese cabs, right? And they were always, they were closest to Japan. They visited there a lot. Like they were playing that game, and all we had was Justin. And so, us coming up behind him after he stopped playing the game, in our heads, I think the idea was that we all sucked, and it didn't, like, we just weren't on that level. So I feel like we still had that chip on our shoulder because we had, none of us won TFC. Obviously, like Ryan won TFC that first year, and so it was just going back to the drawing board and going to fucking Nika's basement and figuring something out, like just grinding out games. And like the amount of games that Mutant and Nika grinded out, particularly, like we all did, but those two particularly, fucking sickening. Like people, you probably get sick of the game if you played as much as they did, but it just showed the that hunger to want to perform, at the highest levels, right? And then that was accentuated by all those Japanese players coming over for that TFC like the next year. In our heads, that wasn't just like visitors coming, that was co-op cup light. This is like the first taste of it. So how are we going to perform, and like let's really pay attention to what's happening so we can like make adjustments, you know what I mean? And so I think that was just the approach. It was just like, this is all one big thing. We have a case to prove against the rest of the US, and then we have another case to prove in Japan. So I think we just kind of just took it with that level of seriousness that whole time.
And then Jazzy won versus Yi. So that's another big element, right? Of like who's the best Ken. I think is always
Yes.
a lot of people talk about that. That's certainly one of the narratives. And yeah, I remember that being a very fun moment, right? Because Yi beats you in winners. And he pops off. I think how I remember it, and this might not be exactly right, but he runs around the crowd. I'm number one. I'm number one. He's got the one. And then you guys play again in losers, and then you win, and then you have your own pop off. So yeah, walk me through that whole event.
It was give me 1 second, sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry. So that event was, I can't remember how I qualified. I'm pretty sure I qualified for the first Jazzy through points. But like I had lost to him in, I think it was winter semi. It was winter semifinal. So when I got knocked down into losers, in my head there was like a big chance that I wasn't gonna like make it back up there because I had to go through Justin. And I think I had to go through Daisuke, Justin, Nika, just to make it to Yi. But I think I was so fucking delusional too at the time. Like, no, I'm definitely gonna get back. I'm definitely gonna get there. I just gotta like do the right thing. So I was just watching, 5 stars like match, at the the next match that he had against Ryan. I was just trying to like, develop what's my adjustment, like what could I do to make the next one a little bit like more competitive. And so I had to go through Daisuke, which is always a tough out, like always a tough out. And then Justin, the last time I had played him was Combo Breaker earlier that year, and he beat me in grand finals. And again, that was like my redemption kind of a thing for me too. So I played that matchup with like a lot of like energy. And then I played against like Nika, and then Nika is obviously always a tough out, and he usually beats my ass. So just being able to like get when I beat Nika, I felt like there's no fucking way I can lose to Yi. Because there's no way that Nika would have lost to Yi. That's how I was looking at it. I was like, I didn't want to disappoint Nika. That's how I thought about it. I was like, because Yi hates playing Nika. Nika knows how to like beat that kind of like style that Yi has, so I couldn't possibly get back to like losers finals and then lose to him and then look Nika in the eye. So I was like, really thinking about how I could actually like win, and I wasn't thinking about like the pop off or like the narrative or anything like that. I was literally just thinking, like, I don't want to disappoint Nika. Like I don't. Like he's gonna yell at me if I fucking if I lost to Yi, especially after beating him. Like fucking gatekeeper. So when I was playing Yi, I kind of sensed like he beat my ass that first round, like really bad, and I was like, "Fuck, is this just gonna be like three, like more games of what happened in winners finals?" And then I was just kind of able to like Yi likes to play like a slow game, and at that point in time, I hadn't really like refined my offense yet, so I was playing a little bit slower too, but I still like to attack. So it was just like a matter of how do I do it safely. And so whatever, I managed to do it like 3 games in a row, and I managed to beat Yi. And when it felt weird to pop off like afterwards because it almost didn't feel sincere in the sense that like, oh, I think I'm the best, like, and this is why I'm doing it. I literally just did it because he did it, and I don't want to feel like a bitch. So I was like, no, now I gotta fucking pop off. Like, fuck this. And like there was, it obviously was a little spontaneous, but it was also like it didn't feel like sincere in that way, like, oh my god, I feel like I am the best. Like that's not where that came from. It was just more like just returning the energy that I had gotten, because that was a shock to me too, because again, I didn't regard myself to be in that conversation yet, so I found it weird that he would pop off against me. So that's something that like kind of shocked me a little bit, and it kind of like knocked me into my senses, like, no, you fucking belong here, you know what I mean? Like you are somebody to beat. And so that I think kind of like kickstarted like my feeling that way, and just kind of carrying myself with that like confidence from then on out. You know what I mean? Like I think that did a lot for me, like beating you in that set.
That's crazy. Like that. So even at that point, you felt that way, despite at that point we had a couple. I guess I call them super majors. I don't think anyone else calls it that, but
I
the
like
big
I like the sound.
yeah, the Smash Brothers terms, the super majors.
Oh
We'd
my
already had a couple, and
goodness.
you would hit top 8 every single time.
Yeah,
So, in my mind at least, you're like, oh yeah, he's one of the top players, right? Like I had
yeah,
as I was coming up, I had in my brain, who can I not fucking beat? If I can get to ninth, but I get to lose to those guys, cool. And yeah, you were one of those, 8 people. So it's crazy to me that like even at that point at Jazzy One, you were like, oh, it's weird that he's popping. Why is that such a pop off, right?
yeah. Right. Yeah. Seriously, I just yeah. I don't know. I think yeah. I don't know. I feel like maybe that's just part of like competition that's a little bit toxic, or it could be toxic, like if you let it be, because like to me I hadn't won anything, and so I hadn't done shit, and so who the fuck was I? Like that's what I was thinking at that time.
I see. Oh, by the way, chat. If you guys have any questions for Frankie, throw them in there, and we got a section coming up for chat questions. Okay, so during that time period, of course, we kind of already touched on this, but you guys are, there's this swell of American Third Strike. You guys are practicing actively, and during the midst of all this, you guys go to Japan a few
Mhm.
times.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to leave that one. I'm just going to say the word Japan and let you go from there. So talk to us about your Japan experiences and the co-op and all that.
All right. I'll also bring up something really quickly,
Yeah.
that like preparing for that first Japan trip was how the film room series kind of came about,
Hmm.
because like I was kind of like looking at ways that we can like share um like things that we were noticing. And so I kind of came up with like that rough draft of like the Deshkin one that I had started with.
Mm.
And it was just like kind of I did it in a way where it was just like it was really rough, and it was just like let me just put this together so that I can show the rest of the guys, so they can like see if like I'm off base in any of this, and like things that I should work on. And so I started it with that. I put some little background music behind it, and I showed it to them like right before we left for Japan, and it was like, oh shit, this is like really sick. And so that was just enough for me to kind of like turn it into something like that was cohesive and a thing. And so that kind of like started off like the channel in a way that like I made, where I was like, you know what, maybe other players might want to like, this is like for the rookies and for the intermediate people who are like trying to find a way to get better at the game. And so that's kind of like how the whole film room thing started, was just like another tool that we were using like to prepare for Japan. So, spent a lot of nights, Nika's fucking basement. It's a huge basement. He has a bar down there and everything. It's fucking huge. and we were playing the super gun setup down there that he had, and it was just a lot of just practice, man. A lot of practice. We go over there. First time in Japan, obviously, it's like the mecca of Third Strike, and we're like, which fucking arcade's open? We gotta go there right now. Like the moment we landed like super late, like fucking 1 in the morning. He
Mhm.
was like, dude, like, where's the first place we're gonna go? We woke up like super early. We went to like Mikado and was just like playing like random guys on the thing. We were like having fun, like winning, and then we went to the locals there, and it was just like a lot of. It was a shock, like the amount of cigarette smoke and high level Third Strike. Like Nika and I had migraines every single fucking night at the end of the night. Like we were like sickly little pups, just like earning our stripes in Japan. It was just such a stressful time too because we were just getting shocked by how well everybody played every fucking character. And it was like every fucking match was like a battle. It was like life or death.
Mhm.
And nothing. It was just like I don't know if like a cocaine addict just like walked into like Scrooge McDuck's like fucking chamber and it was just all cocaine. That's just like how it felt. Like it was just that and it was such an amazing experience and it's something that I recommend to everybody. If you're even interested in Third Strike even a little bit, you go and you experience that. I know like there is no co-op cup right now, but you know, you go during a Third Maniacs weekend and you just like experience that culture, you know, of just high level like hype Third Strike and it what it did for me particularly was just it made me fall in love with the game again because it just you know there's no like real events still like consistent events like going on in America at that time other than like TFC. So it just kind of gave me something to look forward to. Like, let's go to Japan every year and compete in Co-op Cup. And you know, we tried to, you know, be the first American team to make a top eight, and we were beaten to that. But um, like, it was inspiring. Like watching all of our guys like on the team just play out of their fucking minds. You know what I mean? It was just like at some point, you know, during both of those runs, like all of us did some sick shit, and it was just like I don't know. It was just fun. It was just like a lot of fun, and it's something that can't be you know replicated. And I just hope that we have an opportunity to all go and compete because I think you know one one positive thing that uh one positive effect that COVID had on Third Strike was that that following Jazzy after COVID,
Mhm.
dude, everybody was just so happy to be with each other. It
Yeah.
just felt different. You know what I mean? Like yeah, we were competing and but there was I sensed zero animosity, you know, and that wasn't ever the case. Like there was always animosity always like when we went to these events and
Mhm.
um but and so like I just want another shot of like going to Co-op Cup with all of us like working together like we all should have been that whole time. You know what I mean? Instead of like kind of like looking at our like little ponds and like trying to like be the king of our ponds like we should have been working together that whole time and now I think we've gotten to that point where we are you know especially with like the road to X you know Discord that we got going on like I just want another crack at it man I feel like we could make some real noise as Americans like going to Co-op Cup.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
I mean,
just
you've
want a
seen a
shot.
lot of performances recently where it's like, okay, like, you know, America, land of the free, blah, blah. But the reality is, Americans could compete in Japan at a very high level versus like almost everyone, right? There's a few guys that, okay, we can't really beat them, but no one beats them, right? No one beats Nuki. But I mean, then again, Chirithi just did. So even that is not unattainable.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I would love to see a couple of really stacked American teams go back and try again. Because certainly we've seen enough evidence that top American players can compete. In terms of your two co-op runs, now how I remember is that you guys got into the second round and you were one team away both times from top eight.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, talk us about that. I've never made it to the second round. I'm sure it sounds great. But yeah, talk to us about that. Like because
Well, that
that's
shit.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's hard, man. It's fucking hard. Like that tournament was so strange because it's like you play your first round match and dude, like the wait time between the first and the second rounds is like forever, bro. You're waiting for like 2 hours. So it's like we're going from having a bunch of casuals and then playing in the first round. You still feel like fresh, you know what I mean? Like you feel like sharp and like, okay, you're ready, and then you get put on ice, like and you have to compete and perform after getting off of like that 3 hour like ice bath of just like nothing, literally nothing happening.
Yeah.
And we're trying our best to kind of prepare how we can. Like, okay, these are the teams that we might have to play, but it's a crapshoot. You don't know who the fuck you're gonna play. So it's like we're trying to make something out of nothing, and then we go up, and that first year we played against whose team was it? It was I just remember. Oh, it was Shin. It wasn't. Was it Shinta? Was it Shinta? I don't know. It was Decoy's team. He was the one who ended up anchoring for their team. He didn't anchor, but he was like the best player of the team at that point. And there was like a weaker Yang player that they kind of held off like for fifth. And so I had um beaten like the first two guys, and then I lost to Yun, and then um Mutant came up and he almost beat the Yun and it didn't happen. And I think the point is we're at like final game. Nika comes up. Gavin was anchoring at that time because just we wanted Nika to get through the Akuma. That way he could just beat the Yang in the mirror, and that would have been it. And it just didn't happen. Decoy was just really, really patient. Akuma, very turtly, and at that point, Nika wasn't really refined in terms of dealing with that playstyle yet. We worked on that after. That was like a big point of emphasis for him after losing that tournament in that way to that type of player. He was just like beating himself up over it, and he's improved a lot with that. And Gavin couldn't beat Decoy, so we ended up losing. That was like the last team, that we would have had to play. We would have been in top 8 after that, and it was fucking crushing to lose like that, like being so close, knowing that was like the last guy they really had. Like that other Yang player is like a salaryman that was probably like the cousin of somebody's girlfriend who was on the team, and they just like put him on the team. And so yeah, it was that one was crushing. Then the next year, Mutant didn't go, so we had Issei on our team instead, and same thing. We got to round 2, everybody was playing well, and we ran into the same person that everybody ran into that tournament, which was Shirokuro.
Yeah.
And he, I had a decent match against him. I think like out of all of us, I was the closest one to like kind of beating him, but he dominated me in that last round, and we just couldn't get past him, and he just continued to truck through fucking everybody that day. It was just his day. So, I know moral victories, but we lost. We lost to him. We lost to the guy who kicked everyone's fucking mouth in that. Just kicked everyone's back in that weekend. So, but yeah, you do that thinking that you're always gonna get another shot at it. You know what I mean? So it was just like, okay, there's things that we need to work on. So and so. That second time that we went to Japan, we were kind of more known to the Japanese players, so we had like good, like boss. There's like footage on Nika's channel, SF3LP on YouTube, of us playing against Boss that day. Like he came up to me and Nika after we had lost, and he was like, "Hey, we want to, I want to play you guys." So he took us out to dinner and fucking took us to this like little like fucking back alley like arcade where there's like the one, the only person in there is like the owner, and he's like this 92-year-old, guy, and we had the whole arcade to ourselves, so we were playing him, and so it was that kind of an experience. The second time it was much less sweaty. The first time we went, it was super sweaty. We were just trying to like beat everybody and not lose, and prove ourselves. The second time it felt more like celebratory, kind of like the names that we were kind of making for the American third strike scene, and kind of just being you know just regarded in a more positive way. And so that second time, it was just a lot of fun, and I need to go back. Like I just need to go. It was for like a Maniacs or something. I just want to go back.
Yeah, we need a co-op announcement, right? Like, where's the
Just
co-op announcement at?
I'm looking at you, Masuda. Matsu-san.
When was the last co-op? It was part of like DreamHack or something, right? Is it
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So what, 2 years ago or 1 year ago? I think like they brought it back last year.
Yeah, and then they skipped this year for Evo Japan, right? I think.
Yeah,
Or yeah.
right.
But Evo Japan just got announced. I don't know if Third Strike's being ran there.
We'll see.
So I don't
We
know.
shall see.
Me and the boys were talking about maybe Evo Japan if it gets announced for Third
Oh,
Strike. Maybe we fly
maybe.
I want
Dallas
to see
out there.
how Japan deals with Ray's gameplay. That would be very.
They ain't ready for that shit, dude.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned like the moral victory part, because something I've noticed among a lot of the top people is they're playing for first, right? It's like I want to
Yeah.
win, even if it's like, oh, I'm in America, I'm an underdog, I want to win. Which has never been a problem for me, right? Like if I got to fucking ninth place and I lost to Shiro Kuro, like yeah, I'm fucking sick, bro. Like I lost to Shiro Kuro, what do you want from me? So I could easily take a moral victory from that personally. Um, okay, so something I want to touch on in this whole Japan thing, because we hear this a lot. We've kind of talked about this before. The idea of people not being ready to go to Japan. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Hmm.
It's bullshit. You're never ready for Japan if you're like, it's like having a kid. Like, you're never ready. You just prepare as much as you can. But honestly, there is no preparation for it. It's literally something that you go, no matter what level of competing you're at or what level of experience you have with the game, you go, you experience that, and you will come back supercharged to get to the next step, regardless of where you are in that journey. You will, like, after experiencing the culture of Third Strike and how it's celebrated and just the camaraderie and just the level of play and the competition and the sickest shit you will ever see, in casuals, that, sicker than anything you've ever seen in any fucking tournament match. You witness it, you're there for that. At that moment, you're not a gaijin, you're just somebody who likes Third Strike, and everybody's like, oh my god, that was fucking sick, or sugoi, or whatever they say. And like, and you're just part of it. And dude, you come back no matter what level you are, you come back and you're like, fuck, I want to get to it. So I think that's bullshit. I think, it's not like Co-op Cup is like in a fucking dungeon or in a third world country somewhere. It's in Japan. Like, you're gonna enjoy Japan regardless. So you just
Yeah.
go, you enjoy Japan. If you even have a inkling of interest in Third Strike, you go to Japan and you experience that shit, and you will come back like a changed player.
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, when you came back from Japan, let's talk about the first time, I guess. Did you what was the aftermath of going to Japan? Did you come back like, oh, I'm so hungry, I can't wait to go back next year, let's compete? Or did you have like, I hear people talk about this often, like the post Japan blues, like, oh, I'm back in
Yeah,
shitty America.
I was depressed.
Yeah.
I well, not I say that. I mean, tongue in cheek. I was a little like, I'm not there, so I'm like not feeling great. The cool thing is that I got back from Japan and I don't think I lost an online game for like a month and a half. Like, so that's the cool part about it. But then in that sense, it was like disappointing because I'm not there. I'm not in Japan. I'm not where I want to be. So yeah, definitely experienced the post Japan blues. Didn't want to even look at Third Strike after I came back. And I played, online for a little bit because I was missing it, and then I just said, "Fuck this! I'm not touching this until I have to," which is like playing for a tournament. And so, yeah, it was that, and that was just like, I say like you come back, a changed player, and like you want to like, hit that next step, but that's like only in lieu of having something to play for, when you get back, right? So when we kind of got back, we weren't sure what the next thing was gonna be. You know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, unless we're playing each other, we're not really having like fun with the game.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a little bit different for me, but I feel like if, many other people would come back like hungry, because at that time we didn't have a good enough version of Fightcade, where we can kind of get back to practicing and, it feeling decent. You know what I mean? Like, we had 3SOE to come back to. So it was like completely different. I think if I came back from Japan now, I would be hungry, you know what I mean? And I would have the tools to kind of keep progressing. But yeah, that was my experience. I was sad as shit.
Yeah, no, same for me. Also, I guess, so something for me, and maybe this is different because I was a more developing player, and I feel like you were, you were further along in the journey for sure when you came back. But like I would write myself a notepad document in my phone, like, oh, here's all the shit I've learned. Here's what I'm gonna go back and do. And I came back and it's just all garbage, right? Like none of this shit is useful. Everyone here plays like a fucking idiot, right? That was my, and you'd have to deal with that of like, okay, like, and I think I kind of made peace with it eventually, with in deciding like, okay, Japan is at a higher level than us, but also the differences here are just meta differences. They're, America just fundamentally plays different from Japan, and I'm just trying to like, I got used to their meta, and it felt to me like I'd improved a lot, and I'm sure I had improved, but also I was just trying to fit like a square peg in a round hole, like taking my Japan stuff back to America. And it doesn't always fit, and I had to make peace with that. I don't know if that's something you dealt with in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm lucky that I had like-minded people that I could always turn to and be like, let's play some games. And like you said, it's like it's this agreement that you play when you're playing online. Like we're agreeing, handshake agreement to not be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And take advantage of this of the conditions. Let's try to, mimic like real Third Strike. And so yeah, so I'm lucky. Everyone would be lucky now. I think like you have like those people that you can kind of go to and be like, okay, let's play this game. But yeah, that was also my experience where my like my fuse for bullshit was just so low at that point. I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe this guy woke up parry. Fuck you. Like that's how I was thinking, and it was so super unhealthy. So I just stopped playing like random people that I didn't know anymore. I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna stick to the people that I know aren't like pieces of garbage and aren't gonna dash at me like 20 times in a row under like under like 78, MS or like you know what I mean. So. Yeah, I think that's true though. I think that that's like something that especially when you're getting better, like you're trying to like what you said, you're trying to like fit a small, something into a whatever something, you know what I mean? Like you're trying to like fit something that don't fit into somewhere else, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like so what you're doing is like you're trying to refine that gameplay, you know what I mean, that you've learned in Japan. And then when you bring it back over here and somebody isn't, helping you paint that picture, you get fucking mad. You get mad at them.
Yeah.
You're like, holy, like you're ruining my art. Like what the fuck are you doing? Like you're ruining my art. Like play properly. And so, but because you're not at that level yet to like understand that, you don't know, you don't have another gear to go to. Like I have a brainless gear that I can go to and like play that game and win and not be frustrated. But like if I'm actively trying to improve, yeah, like none of us are immune from that. So yeah, I think that that's like a that's a potential like pitfall for people. That's a good point that you brought up.
Yeah, fight game makes it worse. No, I agree. I feel like now I'm an old man yelling at clouds territory. But yeah, I've always felt like with online, gotta be a fucking agreement. Like if we're both good players, we know what this game is played like on arcade. Like I know you fucking know. I know you you would not be triple dashing at me on an arcade cabinet, asshole. Yeah. But I feel like that's. I felt like when I was learning, that was like a gentleman's agreement among a lot of the like good players. Was like, okay, we're gonna pretend we're playing offline right now.
Yeah.
And
sure. It's always unspoken too. Like it's just something that we just if you're not a piece of shit, you do. But unfortunately, this ain't a perfect world.
The Wild West out here now. Anything goes.
Anything fucking goes.
Okay. So now shifting gears a bit. So you, over the, like I said, over the last decade, you've probably been one of the most consistent performers in terms of tournament. I'd like to talk a little bit about your mindset about competition in general, what your goals for the game are, things like that. How do you prepare for tournaments? How do you view competition in Third Strike? Very broad subject, but if you have any thoughts on that.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like we spoke about it a lot with and like in terms of like how I prepared for Evo. It was like something like very similar to that where it's you have to prepare to the conditions that you're going to be playing in. You know what I mean? Like just very broadly, I spoke on Mutant's thing about how if I were Japanese, I would prepare for, Evo. You're gonna be playing on your lap. You're gonna be playing, little sound, so and so. You try to like replicate those things so that you can be as unfazed as like possible. 3SO is coming up. So you know what that means? Fightcade is probably going to be reserved for training mode only, and I'm going to have to go out to my local and play on the cabs.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because that's going to be what, like that's going to be the conditions that we're playing in. So I think just like being realistic about like what conditions you're going to be playing in is important to like preparing. I also think that competition is a natural, healthy thing. I think we shouldn't run away from it as like a community. Like, there's nothing wrong with tournaments. I think figuring out who's gonna be the best person on a given weekend should be like a healthy thing that we like all aspire to be a part of in a realistic way. And I think that we've embraced that kind of like between Jazzy becoming a thing and just Fightcade getting better and are being like willing to communicate with each other. I think you've seen it too because there hasn't been a repeat Jazzy winner.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like so it just that tells me that everybody is taking it with like a seriousness, you know, and everybody's like preparing and um being realistic too with like what steps you should be taking and where you should be at is like another, you know, thing that if you're trying to compete and get better, you have to like it's like little baby steps and it's like just getting better every single day. I know it sounds like super cliche, but it truly is. Like if you know, if you can be like real enough with yourself to ask somebody like what you think you're doing wrong and they tell you and you choose not to work on it, then you don't deserve shit.
Mhm.
Like you know what I mean? Like you deserve to keep losing the way that you're losing. But I think competition like brings that out of each other. And I know like we had a community wide discussion about first to whatever being more important than like tournaments.
Mhm.
And I've always been on the side of like I think tournaments kind of like the results matter a little bit more. And I think it's you know this was like it's the truth in terms of everybody acknowledges that a big tournament is like performing in a big tournament is not easy and we all value these results in a certain way. Like you shouldn't like nobody should regard me or Resolve as the best American Third Strike players because we made top six.
Oh, I
But
do.
it does
That's until it changes. That's that's my plan.
yeah, well you know, to me like the way that I looked at it was like the day that ended. Like yeah,
Sure.
that was true for about 3 hours and then
Mhm.
midnight struck. We all went to sleep. We woke up and things are reset again. And like the reason why I look at it that way is because we've all been working really hard to be at a certain level. Like Lance, I lost to you at Jazzy. You know what I mean? Like that like nobody is untouchable in this thing anymore. I think like we kind of grew up in like the Pyro League 5-star Justin era of Third Strike where we think that if you're the best that means you have to win every single fucking tournament and that's just not the case when you have a talented pool as like as with who operates on such a high level like we all do now. Like dude, fucking Steelhammer just 2 years before just the year before he went on that run and he was like knocking on the door to like beat Issei at the Jazzy Grand Finals. He lost to that Ibuki player, right? What was his name? He was from Texas, I think he's from Texas.
Oh, Marcus. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly, right. But that just shows you how close everyone is to each other, right? That he, you know, Steelhammer could go from like losing to Marcus and wanting to unalive himself and then going and then training his ass off the next year and then beating Nika, beating Daisuke, who was a fucking demon for as long as he's been playing the game, you know, competitively. He beat Daisuke, he beat Nika, he beat Ahmed. Who else did he beat? He beat
Yuki,
fucking
I think.
everyone.
He beat Yuki that year
Beat
too.
Yuki, right?
Yeah.
Beat Yuki. You know what I mean? And so it's very possible. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like the point. Like the point is that this shit is it's possible to compete at the highest level. We've all gotten here by you know listening and by like learning from each other, and that is the spirit of like that's what competition does. Like we don't get this good without tournaments to go to. Like we can say we would if, but if we valued like these Fightcade first to tens or like just meeting up and you know doing first to tens every now and again, I don't think we'd be at this level of play that we're at right now. You know,
I like
so
what you said about like it's like, oh, it's March Madness now. Like,
yeah.
I certainly felt that. Like I said, when I was coming up, TFC years especially, I kind of felt like, yeah, there's like 8 guys. They're the best guys. They're untouchable. We'll see which of those guys beats each other this year. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll get 9th or 13th or something. I'm good with that. Um, and then certainly in the last few years, I feel like it became more like cutthroat. Like, there's still a pecking order, of course, but it really does feel like there's so many dangerous players now. Um, and so
Hmm.
you can lose to anyone, and also that becomes a skill set, right? Like I have to navigate these tournaments full of killers. Yeah, and that's its own skill. That's totally different from a first to 10, right? That's a completely different
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, and like that's something that, how I prepared for Evo was like much different than TFC because like you said, back then it's like, okay, you gotta know how to beat Ryan. You need to know that matchup. You need to know all the matchups that Yuki knows, which is pretty much all of them. But like he plays Makoto, Yun, Ken in tournaments. So you have to like know those. You gotta like know the Yang matchup. You gotta know the Necro matchup because like mutants there or whatever. So it's like these like little now you have to know fucking every matchup. Like you cannot go in with like a deficiency because it's gonna get exposed. You know what I mean? And like I don't know if Yi was playing a lot of Urian in Japan, but he got. You know what I mean? And then he got by Bubbles too, and so it's just like it's just that it's he called it March Madness at appropriate, and you have to prepare for every like single matchup. Like you can't shortcut it anymore.
Yeah, and it's like to me, okay, it's so like okay, it's easy to say sample size matters the most, right? If I play someone 5,000 times and I win 3,500 of them, that means I'm better, right? But that's not the experience in tournament. And I feel like you develop a gameplay that is, how do I say it? Like it's not like risk averse exactly, but you develop the tournament gameplay, right? Because
Mhm.
there are risks you can take in a first to 10, or if you're playing first to 5 million, like Kang and Nika do, that is it's totally different from like, okay, I'm gonna play bubbles 2 out of 3, and I'm not allowed to lose a game because things can go very sideways very fast.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's true.
yeah.
And it's much more unforgiving playing the 2 out of 3s in a tournament, and it really like tests like your ability to adjust quickly.
Mhm.
And those are completely different skill sets than like there are adjustments that are being made, like you said, in the first to 10, but um, being able to execute it quickly is, I think, the biggest thing, is like the biggest skill. And I think we lend credence to it too. Like we might make arguments against tournaments, but at the end of the day, you know, Evo moment 38, or 808 or 23 or whatever it is that people want to call it. It doesn't it doesn't happen if it happens in the Hawaiian suite,
Yeah.
you
Sure.
know. It
If it was game
happened
7 in the first to 10, right?
right. Who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean tournaments matter. All the negativity and like anxiety that tournaments cause is for a good thing because it like brings us together, because you know what, at the end of the day, everybody who attends a tournament except for two people end up being spectators, and so at the end of the day we're pretty much all in the same seat, like enjoying the game. And so I think tournaments and the reputation that they've gotten in this community have they've done like a 180, I think, especially since Jazzy
Sure.
kind of became a thing.
Awesome. Okay, that's all my questions. Ray, do you have any follow-ups, or if you want to start taking questions from the chat?
I want to talk about TSB first before we go to
Oh
the
yeah, we didn't
questions.
even talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. How did
Oh
the
yeah.
TSB announcement and the invitation get? How did that come about? Walk us through that.
So before I foolishly cracked my foot, I won the New York City auto qualifier against Nika, and Yaz had contacted me about my interest in wanting to play in France back then, and like I didn't know if I could, um, but I told him I was interested, and then that weekend I was working a Special Olympics event, and um, my group, my basketball group, we managed to win the gold medal, and just that rush from, watching these fucking kids practice like 6 hours a week, like 3 days, never missing a practice, and um, really sucking at basketball in the beginning of the season, and then turning it around and winning. That's I As soon as we won the gold medal, in that thing, I was like, you know what, I hit up Yaz immediately, and I was like, I'm interested in going. I want to go. So he said, cool. Let's just like keep it under wraps. So I've like held this in for a few months now, and um, I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but I feel like performing well at Evo was like a good thing for me, like mentally, because it kind of like validated the invitation in a way. And I know it kind of like maybe people think it happened the other way, where it's like, oh, I made top six in Evo, and so therefore I was invited, but it's actually the other way around. And um, it was nice to catch up with Yaz and Niaban and them, and I'm like excited to like be that representative for a scene, and I'm nervous and there's a lot of pressure, but just gotta go in and defend the American pie, baby, the red, white, and blue. You know what I mean?
USA, USA.
USA.
So you played a lot of the top French players, I think, over the years, right? Like you played Niaban, Yaz.
Hmm.
I think Victor. Did you play Victor when he came for TFC?
Yeah.
You're probably familiar to some extent with their scene. Obviously,
Hmm.
maybe some people you haven't played, like Mimosa or something.
Hmm. Yeah, I haven't played them yet.
Okay, so yeah, no, I'm looking forward to watching that. I hope you win because then we get to do that. We won by proxy. So
That's true. Yeah, no pressure.
All right, so we want to get to the questions. Cool. All right, so Rennick asked earlier on, when you were in Japan, how did you fare against the lower tiers out there, Alex, etc.? I know Rennick probably wants to know that Alex experience.
Um, I think I was pretty lucky in having like a training partners with like Nika and Matt and Neo XP. I was gonna call him Necro, but Neo XP because I
call him by
had
his first
some.
name, Necro.
Yeah, I had more experience with those. So particularly against like the Alexes, I honestly I didn't have much trouble at all. Like it was pretty, I kind of understood what I needed to do in that matchup, and it was, it wasn't too bad. Um, the weirdo characters though fucking got me. Like, I played like a first to death with Bentoya, and he plays Q,
Mm-hmm.
and he fucked me up. It was so bad. It was so fucking bad. I had a bad headache at the end of that. Um, Elena. I played Arona a bunch over there, and he kicked my ass. I played a couple of the Oros, like Inoue and stuff, and they were just kicking my ass. I was like, "Where are the fucking Chuns and the Yuns? Like, where are they? Can I get a fucking high tier, please?" I was just like desperate to play all of my like normal like high tier matchups. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a typical Japanese experience of getting your ass kicked, and um, but yeah, if he really wants to know about the Alexes, I don't think any of the Alexes gave me much more trouble than Rennick does.
Oh, all right.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's almost been like beaten to death at this point, right? But that is the American experience. Like I
Mhm.
prepped, went to Japan, I fucking lost to like Remy and 12 and Elena.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I lost to Remy every year I went to co-op. One of the many reasons I've never been in the second round of co-op. But yeah, anyway.
Lance is ups in the Remy.
You got to work on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to hit up what Everdred's doing. Everdred, he's still playing.
Doug, where you at?
All right, so next question's from Sonny here. He said, "When do you feel like you improved the most at the game, and what did you what were you practicing, or what did your practice look like at that point?"
Good question. Um, I think the biggest jump that I made was from like before the first TFC to TFC. That was like my first big one, and honestly, it was just like getting reps against like players that were better than me. Like Nika and Mutant, were clearly better than me at the time, and so I was just kind of like learning from them and just like listening to everything that they were saying. They're both like really smart players. So I've always kind of been lucky to like have like smart people be willing to give me advice. So I think the next biggest jump was like pretty recently was like the last the last Jazzy. My practice for that I feel like was like the next kind of big jump that I made in terms of competing and like performing well. And I think it was just like sticking. I didn't have that much time to practice, and so it was more like just keeping it very simple and like sticking to like principles. Like, all right, I'm not gonna like dash in at people like so much. I want to like establish the crowd strong and just like, oh, how do I feel confident in establishing the crouch strong if I can't hit confirm it? So just doing that. Like, I mean, hit confirm, stand strong and crouch strong a bunch of times a day, and like short and stuff like that, and then practicing like the walk up parries and stuff like that. So it's just like if you can kind of like clearly outline like how it is that you want to play, and then like practice those key things. I think like you can't help but improve, and even if you don't like improve a ton, you'll still like refine your own play, and you'll end up just playing better because you kind of like know exactly what you want to go for all the time. But I think that the Jazzy run from last year where I got third, I think that was like one of my most like proudest like kind of tournament performances because at no point throughout the tournament that I feel like out of control. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I knew what was happening the whole time and I wasn't playing outside of like how I wanted to play. Like I had this idea that I wanted to play like a moving wall the whole time. Like that's like that was my approach, and it didn't work out completely. But I had never felt like I abandoned it out of panic or I abandoned it out of frustration. Like I felt like very even keel that whole tournament, and I think it showed too, like in how I was even like looking when I was playing and like how I took the losses, like how I took the wins. Like I was just like very emotionally like stable and kind of just carried that with me, since then. So I'm like kind of proud of that jump that I made last year.
That was an insane run as well. Yeah, I remember that year. We're all prepping for top 16, and so I'm looking at the size of the bracket. I'm like, well, I'm not putting myself on Yuki's side, that's for sure. So we're gonna choose the Yi and Frankie side, and maybe that's okay. But then I lost to Mami, which is we need to make Makoto's play first to tens in tournament. That's a whole different topic. They should have to beat us first to 10. They should not be allowed to play 2 out of 3. But yeah, then I just watched you run through the brackets. Like fuck, I'm kind of glad I'm kind of glad I lost and just didn't play him. Like, no, that's good. I'm good on that one.
Yeah, I mean that matchup I had like taken a lot of, you beat me the year before, so I was like, like they're, I'm playing this wrong or like not playing it wrong, but they're like ways that I need to improve this. So I was like working on that matchup particularly that year. I was like anticipating either running into you or Amir, and like I just wanted to play it better than I played it before, and I think it showed when I played Amir. I'm like lucky it kind of went down that way.
Yeah, I am glad we didn't play that year. I'll just say that. Glad we missed that one.
Question from me, just kind of piggybacking off that and going into Nico's next question too. What do you do when you feel like stagnant in the game? Because I feel like I'm running into that quite a bit, where it's just like I don't feel like I'm adding anything to my gameplay. I don't feel like I'm improving. I'm just like playing. Like, how do you kind of get out of that rut?
I walk away.
Really?
I'm if anybody knows anything about Marvel Snap, it's a mobile card game. I'm like I'm deep in this shit. I'm like collection. I'm like a 13,000 like collection level. I go deep in that shit. Like I play all the new like Street Fighter games. I've always been that way. I love fighting games. Period. So I'm pretty decent at Marvel. I played the Dragon Ball Z, game competitively, like that first season especially. I'm always like picking up a new game, and so when I kind of get that, I'm not enjoying this as much, kind of a feeling, or maybe I don't know. Well, actually, maybe it's a similar feeling, but there are times where I'm like inundated with Third Strike, and so when I'm playing the game, it feels foggy. Like I'm thinking about too much all the time, and I can't like focus, and it's like there's like I'm thinking about too many things, and I'm like trying to do too many things at once. So I walk away, and like let me just like stop you for like 2-3 weeks. Let me get into something else. I play that other thing sufficiently such that I realize it's nothing compared to Third Strike, and then I come back wanting to play Third Strike a lot more. that's like, this isn't Street Fighter 6 fucking sucks. Holy shit. I don't this isn't the truth, but it's just my truth when I'm
Yeah.
like in the middle of trying to improve in Street Fighter 6 and I realize this ain't it. Like I hate this shit. I want to go back to Third Strike. So I go back to Third Strike with a little bit of like more like tenderness for the game and like more like
Appreciation.
not yeah, a little more appreciation and I try my best to when I'm when I'm coming back from those like hiatuses to not play people online because I feel like that can like poison the well pretty rapidly. So I always try to come back and just stick to training mode, like watching the game, like watching players that I like to play, like that I enjoy watching and I want to emulate. I'll stick to that. I'll stick to like watching the players that I enjoy watching and then training mode to just try to like get my bearings, get the Hickams from back, like get the execution back, the Karas and shit, because I don't want that to be a point of frustration when I actually play people. And so I just like ease my way into it like that. But yeah, that happens to me like maybe 3 or 4 times a year where I'm just over it and I'm gonna play something else and then I'll be back because that other thing ain't shit compared to Third Strike. And I'll be a much more happier camper for it. But I do have like go-tos, like I watch Eno Ken when I want to like kind of get my bearings. I watch MOV Ken because he has like a very nice clean Ken. Um, Obviously Dashkin's always fun to watch, and even Kuroda Ken because he's like a slow pace kind of like a that's it's fun. It kind of like it reminds me that that's like possible in the game, and so watching them not playing it, like not trying to force it, but watching them play the game in a way that I enjoy makes me eventually want to come back, and I come back with like enthusiasm, but I never force it.
How would you now that we're on that subject? How would you define your own Ken play? Like, if you're describing how you play Ken, what do you think you're really good at, or like, would you say you're athletic? Yeah,
Yeah,
describe your own Ken.
yeah, a D1 athlete. No, I think when I first started, the it was more like very slow, like slow paced, um, footsie oriented, like playing the neutral game because that's what was the style back in the day. That was like the Eddie Lee, Justin style of playing Third Strike, and so that's what I saw was successful, and so those were the soft skills that like I worked on. I think that it's still true like to this day, but I spent like almost an entire year trying to improve my offense because I realized my offense was shit. And so, I played, or I felt it was shit. So, I played super offensive like Deshkin. It didn't work. Obviously, you get hit a lot and like you lose a lot, but you do figure out how to attack people a lot more. So I was doing that. And I think now it's kind of just like, it's a very mobile, like staying in the right spot kind of Ken. Very fluid. Just trying to like be slippery. I remember Dan makes fun of me a lot because there was like this one time he was gonna Steelhammer. Um, Steelhammer makes fun of me a lot because there was this time where he was gonna play Chris G at ECT, and I was visiting the tournament because like I was just there to like visit Long Island Joe and Sweet Johnny Cage who like ran the tournament. So I was just there with my friends. We just showed up the day. I didn't even know Dan at that point. But he asked me like, "What? How do I beat Chris G?" And I told him like, "You got to swim and not get wet." You know what I mean? Like you got to be like, and he laughed and he like, "What the fuck does that mean?" Like he didn't want to tell me that. He's like, but because I was giving him advice, he's like, "What the fuck does that mean?" And it's such a silly thing to like have like said to him in that way and like just walking away like I'm some fucking hermit. But that's how I play the game. Like I play the game by like never being predictable. With where I am on the screen, and just knowing what my options are at every point. And just a slippery boy. That's how I like to describe myself. A slippery man.
I like how people talk about the game, right? Because there's very concrete, and then there's just like a scale to the abstract. And you often find yourself in sports analogies if you have that kind of background.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, that what you described is very abstract. It's not like oh, so to beat Chris G, what you do is you stand in this range and you got to hit this button, and then
No, no,
no, it's nothing like that.
no, no, nothing like that. It's you can't be there because he wants to, you know what I mean? Like and it made sense to me because that's how I beat him. It's like he's like a very like slow, he's gonna wait for you kind of a player.
Yeah.
But you have to like be able to play in that range and not whiff anything, like not get hit. Like you have to be able to like scare him a little bit, like give him stuff to look at. His reactions are like amazing, and he's really good at hit confirming. So throw like a little jab that's not supposed to do anything. Like give him something for him to like flinch on, So that's like what I was thinking. But he always texts me that before like a important tournament match. He always says, "Swim, but don't get wet."
That's funny. No, I mean, yeah, that makes sense to me, right? Like when Yuki starts talking to me about frames and stuff, my eyes just glaze over. I don't understand any of it. But if
Yeah,
you
me
give
neither.
yeah, if you do fucking like, oh yeah, go and just punch him in the mouth. Play like you got the biggest dick in the room. I'm like, okay, got it.
Got it. Makes so much. Yeah, everything kind of like crystallizes at that point. It's like, yeah, this makes total sense. And I think like part of that, like my thinking with that, and maybe yours too, but it's like it's a sports thing. It's like I love like watching boxing. Like growing up, that was like a big pastime in my house. Like it was like the one time where everybody would get together and like on a Saturday, everybody would reunite and watch like whatever big fight was happening. And so like that's kind of like the mindset that I have. Like so when I say swim but don't get wet, it's a sweet science kind of a thing. It's like how like you're in the range of your opponent where you're supposed to be in danger, but you just don't get hit. So it's like don't do anything stupid. Like stay in front of him, but don't do anything stupid. That's like kind of what I was thinking when I said that. So I think it got colored the wrong way. But now every time, but it's important because that's how I enjoy playing the game. So it's nice to get those reminders from him sometimes. Like remember, he'd be like, "Remember, son, swim but don't get wet."
All right, next question is from Nika KO. This one's actually pretty interesting. Back during our come up, you had a character crisis phase where you played like Yan, Akuma, etc. What do you think causes character crisis, and how do you go about getting out of it?
For me, it was like, um, I felt like Ken just wasn't working for me. Like I wasn't. It was desperation. Like I wanted to like win a tournament of importance against like good people. Like I had won tournaments before, but it's like, not where everybody is there. And it's just frustrating to me that like everybody has a Ken and they're comfortable playing against Ken. So I felt like every time I was in a tournament match, like I felt like I had such an uphill climb to make somebody uncomfortable, and I wasn't refined yet in my offense to do that. So I was looking towards other characters that had, in my head, easier offenses, or at least more defined offenses, right? Like it's very, with Yun, you build the meter, you activate, and you make something happen. You got overheads, you have a car throw, you have a command throw. Like they're just, easy ways to open your opponent up. It's like if they're blocking, you throw them. If they're not blocking, you make them whiff or whatever. It's just much easier. With Ken, I didn't know how to do that, and I also didn't know how to ask for advice, about that. So I was like, okay, let me look towards other characters now. And so like with Akuma, I just enjoyed playing him. He was like a lot of fun. I don't think I ever took him seriously, but I did take like trying to learn Yun seriously, and I trying to learn Chun seriously. For a very similar reason that you brought up, Wax, which is like I'm trying to like fix holes in my game. There was that, but then there was also the aspect of it where it's like I think I might have a better chance of winning a tournament if I got good with Yun. That's like how I was approaching it. So it was more out of desperation that I had that character crisis, and I think it is a desperation when other people have their character crisis too. It's like there's something lacking in their understanding about the game that's preventing them from either having fun or winning, and they're trying to cover it up with like the perceived strengths of other characters. That's kind of like how they. I think that's it.
And Ken's an interesting one, right? Because I feel like you kind of touched on it, right? It's like more straightforward offense. Of all the strongest characters, Ken's offense is the least cheap. Right?
Mm.
Obviously, he's a great character, but yeah, like Chun-Li has Kara throw. It forces the opponent to make a decision. Yun, Makoto, Yang all have command grabs. It forces the opponent to make a decision. Dudley, of course, has high-low. Right? Ken basically is playing hit or throw, and you're playing on the timing of that, and you're accounting for guard jump. But there's nothing really cheap in the same way, not in the same way those characters have. And so the offense, I think, is harder. Like when someone asked me before, who's the hardest of the strong characters, I was like, yeah, Ken. Which that sounds sacrilegious to like
It
the
does.
noob. Yeah.
That sounds great. That warms my heart. No, it's true, and it's I feel like that's the truth, only because in my experience, like I wasn't ready to be good with Ken yet. When I was having that character crisis, like I just wasn't, and that's what pushed me to play super aggressive like Deshkin for that year because I was trying to understand like what the fuck is it, and it took me about 9 months to like realize, yeah, it really is. I thought it was something more than that, but it's not. It's literally just how do I get my opponent afraid of throw
Hmm.
with normal throw? That's like a hard thing to do because there's so many like good throw defenses, and then you have like the 6 frames of invo like kind of baked into it. So like, what is it? How is it that he's doing this? And so I had to learn that, and it's something that I feel like if you were to watch tape of me right now versus tape of me maybe Jazzy 2-ish, the offense is completely different. It's like you can see like I'm improving, or if like I've improved to a level where it's like, okay, this is I managed to make Ken scary. I managed to make his normal throw scary. And yeah, that's something that nobody explains to you. And I tried a shortcut by picking Akuma because he had a card throw. So I didn't have to deal with that shit.
Yeah, that's the big like right. If I think about it, like Chun and Ken are very similar characters, but the big difference is like Chun Li Kara throw totally changes how easy that offense is,
Yeah.
right? And how like you can force your like, yeah, and it's right because like you said, there's a lot of good throw defenses, and of course with Ken throw, you're always putting yourself in danger of being back thrown, and
Right.
that's just something Chun Li doesn't deal with.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point.
You know, Ken's hard, but yeah,
Ken's
everyone's like
hard.
Ken.
2024, he's hard.
Yep.
All right, next question is from Max. Max, I'm not reading this whole fucking question, but I'll read most of it. How did you develop your skills in analysis, especially those of high-level Japanese matches? The Third Strike film rooms always stuck out to me, since you're able to see a lot of these small interactions that define these players. And I feel like it's been a bit harder for me to do so. I feel like that's you just watching those, like me as a newer player coming up. Like, I didn't notice a lot of these nuances in gameplay, and like you break it down very simply, and it's short and like to the point. It's not like an hour-long video or something where it's like I get lost in the sauce. It's just straight to it. So, yeah, can you kind of elaborate on that more?
Yeah, I think it was just like, um, I think that kind of came about a little bit more naturally because, well, two things. Like I said, I was like big on boxing, and I did it for a while, like when I was in middle school,
Mm-hmm.
and watching tape is like a big thing in it. That's just what you do. Like that's just there's no in organized sports and anything like that's just a part of it. And so that's one aspect of it where I feel like the actual watching of the matches is just something that's a natural thing for me to want to do. And then another thing is like having part of being in a community is this. It's like, dude, like we would go to Mutant's place after a long session, go to his house, grab some food, sit down and like watch whatever Third Strike match like the Shen dropped that day, and we would watch it like it was a fucking movie or whatever. You know what I mean? Like we just enjoyed that. And so it was just years of that kind of like having so many different perspectives in the room while we're watching this shit is like I'm looking for one particular thing, and then Mutant would pause it and be like, "Oh no, dude! Like, did you see that? That shit was fucking sick." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then we cut it back and it's like, "Oh shit! Well, this is what I saw there." You're like, "Oh man, I didn't even see that." Right? So it's like having all these minds together watching this thing over and over. You kind of like learn to like think outside of your own like purview. And so if you're trying to improve that part of your like analysis, I would just recommend finding like people that are around your level to watch these things with, so you can kind of like get a sense of what are things that you should be looking for. And nothing, man. Like I said, this came about as like a kind of accidentally, just like a tool for me to show the guys what I was noticing about players, preparing for Japan, because that was the whole thing. We're like, we have to prepare for these guys. So, yeah, it's a good question.
That'd be harder for us, right? Because the Dallas minds are always drunk. So if we all got in a voice chat together,
Yeah, it helps to be a nerd
No.
yeah,
about this shit.
got to be
A fucking
sober and
dork, a sober dork, which is
yeah.
not fun.
All right, last one from Nika. Going back to the playstyle question, what do you think attributes to your clean kin playstyle? Think it's your movement, reactions, etc.
Um, I think it's I think the movement helps. But it's like I feel like I'm because I'm Ken and I feel like everyone has a handle on the matchup and they're comfortable against it. You know, the movement is like a me trying to make the opponent uncomfortable. Like where am I gonna be necessarily? The like the like the cleanliness of the gameplay is like I guess that's subjective. Have been hearing that a lot lately. I don't regard myself that way. Like because I'm always like super critical and I'm like trying to always improve on what the fuck I'm doing. But I think that comes from two things: drilling a lot, like just drilling situations over and over again, like just trying to like react the exact same all the time, like just trying to, it's never gonna happen. Like nobody's perfect. I can't like do that. But I think like aspiring to be like 10 out of 10 in training mode on a low forward hit confirm, which is totally possible. Um, that aiming for perfection in training mode and making like training mode harder than an actual game is what makes me be able to be clean in a tournament match, right? Because there are other variables that make a low forward hit confirm much easier in tournament than it is hitting 10 out of 10 of them in training mode, right? Like your opponent is also doing things too, you know what I mean? So it's like if they're throwing out a move and I'm throwing out my low forward, it's actually easier to confirm because I see them doing the move. I'm actually hit confirming them doing the move or them doing the dash rather than me getting the hit. So it's just a matter of like unfortunately practicing a lot. I know people don't like to hear that, but yeah, practicing a lot, um, knowing what it is that you're looking for, and then like just drilling that into your brain and into your hand so that you don't have to think about that stuff.
You said 10 out of 10, low forward, confirm. Are you looking using the life bar, or are you just go
Oh
off the
yeah,
enemy
always. No,
life
always.
bar?
I'm always using the life bar.
Okay.
Because the animations they can lie to you sometimes.
Um,
Yeah.
Um, and like I see people do the score too, but the score to me the score it's useful, but it's not reliable to me because I'm trying to think of it like pragmatically, and it's like it's already, you're when you're in front of a cab, like it's hard to like scan up all the
Yeah.
way to the score. You're like
yeah.
looking at the ground and you have to scan up. To me, the life bar is a little easier to kind of just glance at
Yeah.
because I'm like checking for space and I'm pressing the low forward. I'm glancing up, like I'm looking at the life bar to see what's going on, and so that's kind of helpful. And in a sense, it's easier to hit confirm, um, on a small monitor because your eyes don't have to travel as far.
Mhm.
Mm.
Because I'm not looking at the animation, like I'm just looking at. Just have to like glance up real quick. Okay, a hit. Oh, yeah, I'm going. And so, yeah, that's a lot of like training mode and like frustration and like you fucking idiot. Like it's a bunch of like that and also positive self talk too. It's not always negative. It's also positive self talk. But um, yeah, I think it's possible. I think you should aspire to do it. Like there's shit like that for every single character in the game. Like low forward into lunge punch, super possible to like hit confirm that every time. And just it doesn't mean that's what you're going for in the match all the time, but it's like you're training your brain and your hands to like operate kind of independent of like wax, like the person, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like the soul. Like wax this like you want your body to be operating like kind of on its own in a tournament, which goes back to what you were saying before, Lance. The autopilot, like that's what you should be training. Like you should be training your hands to like kind of like do this without you really having to think about it too much.
Yeah, I remember. So I don't know, and I'm gonna get this wrong because I barely remember it. But I remember some shit about like you actually can like change your nervous system by practicing the same shit over and over, right? Like there is stuff that it's not even like you're thinking about. It's not even in your brain. It's like your
Hmm.
body is just conditioned to do this thing in this situation, right? Like that's what training mode can do for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, and I've noticed that even like there was this thing that Nika showed me in training mode, which is like you like have any character like do like a dash up like sequence, and you have to just like try to red parry or like respond the correct way. And um it's funny because in practice, right, like you're doing it in practice and you're fucking hitting it never. You know what I mean? Like you're always getting hit by the, or you're doing the wrong thing the whole time, and you're like, "Fuck! I've been at this for like 12 minutes, and 12 minutes when you're doing the same thing over and over again is a fucking long time." And like you're doing it, and nothing's working out, and you're like, "Holy shit! Like I can't, like I'm never gonna get this." And then you go into a match against that character, and suddenly you're doing it. You know what I mean? Because it's like the drill of it, doing like 150 or 200 in a row is meant to be tougher than actually seeing it in a match. And you don't really understand what you're doing to your own like physiology by like practicing it over and over again. Like you don't realize that you're actually training yourself properly. So it's just funny that you mentioned that because I've experienced that personally where I can't block overhead. Like Ken's overhead online, I'm always gonna like if you're trying to beat me, just pick Ken and do overhead because I'm never gonna block it and I'm never gonna tech a dash up throw. It's just never happening. So if you want a film room on how to beat me online, you just do that over and over again, right? And so that was pissing me off, and so I did the thing with Ken where I was like dashing up, like strong fierce, dash up short, dash up overhead, and like respond properly. And I was still getting hit with the overhead in practice, but I'm like, holy shit, what the fuck's happening? And then fast forward to Evo, I'm playing. The only Ken mirror that I played was against Chris G, and he did 3 overheads on me, and I red parried all of them. Like, not only did I block them, but I fucking red parried and like got the full punish. And it was like he just looked at me like nobody else was doing that. Huh? I was like, yeah. So again, it just shows you that like these, that drilling is super important, and that probably contributes to the clean play. I'm like trying to bring it back to that question too, but yeah, like all of that, all of the training matters. And like you don't really know what you're doing to your mind when you're training so much, but it's just cool to see that in real time and to like get the result from it. It's just awesome. It's an awesome feeling. It
And you can
wasn't
set
for
that up in
nothing.
training mode now, right? Like you can set it up
Yeah,
to, yeah, Colin was telling me about this. You can just set it up so it just randomly picks from 4
yeah,
different options.
yeah. So you have now Fightcade has like 8 slots, like the training mode, like the training mode Lua script has like 8 slots, and those 8 slots are for that specific character. So every character has their own 8 unique slots, and then you just do what you do. You know what I mean? I have, you know, pretty much scripts for all of like most of the cast. Like I'm trying to like figure out more like how to like practice against like each character, but yeah, like I have like specific things that I work on, and I feel like that you'll enjoy the game a lot more doing that and then going into Fightcade for a little while than just going straight into Fightcade cold and like playing a sweaty first to 5 against somebody from like Peru, you know.
Yeah, or Baltimore.
All right, so I think we're at that point in the night where we do the rapid fire questions. These are the questions we ask the guests all the time to close out the show. So,
Sick.
first things first, top 5 favorite games of all time. Just period.
Oh, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Jet Set Radio Future,
Okay, okay.
GTA 3, Soul Calibur 3,
Oh shit.
random.
Okay.
I know, Soul Calibur
Okay.
3, and then Third Strike.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
GTA 3 over Vice City and San Andreas. How come?
Yeah, it's just that was the first time we saw it in 3D, and it blew our minds, and it was like, what the fuck's going on? It was really that, and I like the cutscenes, like the acting was funny. And the Chatterbox, come on, the Chatterbox
Chatterbox was
fucking
sick.
station fire. I didn't even know I was into podcasts before that wasn't even a thing. But I knew it was up to something because I would always put it on Chatterbox when I was like when I was in the car.
Tony Hawk 1 over 2?
No, I just meant the series,
The
but
series? Okay.
if I had to like narrow it down to one of them, it'd probably be 2.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. All right. Dream co-op team. Americans.
And
Americans.
just to
Okay.
clarify, this can be like the strongest team, or it can be like, oh, you and your boys, or it can be both. You can do 2 separate teams. However you want to answer it. The world is your
All right.
oyster.
All right. So I want the original like tits team to run it back. So that'll be mine. It'd be um me, Nika, Mutant, Hold That, and Gavin.
Okay.
Nice.
Strong,
And
strong.
Gavin's come back, so it's possible.
Yeah, with the silver hair and everything, he means business. Looking like Sephiroth.
All right, one Third Strike player, American on this one too. One game to play for your life. Like you have to send someone up to play one game, to save your life. Who you sending?
I'm sending the Nicaragua knockout.
Good pick. Good pick.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
Yeah.
And then last one, if you didn't main Ken, who would you main?
Hugo.
Okay.
Hugo? Okay. Okay.
No, that's a complete lie. That's just PTSD. That's still me coping, by the way. No, if I think it would honestly, I feel like I would play Yun.
None.
Okay.
Also
Yeah.
a good character. Very strong.
Pretty decent.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
not
closing
bad, not
thoughts.
bad.
Play Third Strike. That's
Good
it.
game.
Go to the 3S Open. Register
Thank
for
you.
teams. Register for the Third Strike Open. Tickets to Dallas are very cheap.
That's
You
true.
do it. You can finance it if you really want to and don't want to like spend $240 up front. You can spend that over the course of 3 months and it'd be easy to get to.
Yep.
Just go to the Third Strike Open. That's the next thing. Third Strike is not over yet.
Yep. Season's not over. We got Third Strike Open and then what? TSB's in what? November? October?
It's on November, so
November?
support.
Hell yeah. 2 strong months of Third Strike, so.
Yeah.
All right, so just want to say thank you for attending the podcast, Frankie. Good
Oh,
shit at
thank you for
Evo.
that. Thank you so much.
Hope you have a good showing in TSB and the Third Strike Open, so.
Me too.
We'll see you in
It's
Dallas.
gonna be hard. Yes, sir. I'll see you then.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you.
Thanks.